Alright, what the fuck's up, ladies and gentlemen? Video time, woo woo woo! This one's gonna be on about the afterlife, what happens when we die. It's gonna be a little bit about DMT. It's gonna be a little bit about Christian programming. So I'm probably gonna lose some fucking followers, but it is what it is. And I got a comment about a month ago, so I recorded the voiceover playing that comment, and I'm going to play that for you, and they have a link in there for some Christian information or whatever the case is, so I'm going to play that for you first. Please try to stick through it. It's only a couple minutes long, and then I come on and I talk for about 40 minutes about some great information, and then you're going to hear Freighter, and yeah, and I'm gonna really make your head spin with this one, talking about how Christians program you to believe that you're a fucking sinner, and how, because they do that whenever you have your final DMT trip, when you die, you're locked in your consciousness and you don't know how to navigate through that because you've never learned how to lucid dream or astral travel, because you thought magic is of the devil, and because you think magic is of the devil, and maybe you didn't follow the commandments, maybe you didn't go to church every Sunday, maybe you got divorced. Well, because of that, they've programmed your subconscious mind against you. So whenever you see God in your own dream, in your own DMT trip, the God you're going to see is your subconscious mind, who's been programmed with all those rules, saying, well, you've been pretty much a good person, but you know the rules. You're not supposed to get divorced. You're supposed to go to church, and you weren't supposed to break all these commandments, and you did, and you never repented. So I got no choice but hell you go. That's what I'm going to talk about and what you can do about it. So yeah, stay tuned. But first, here comes the comment. I hope you enjoy it.
Nick Williams 1 month ago. So this is my testimony about getting back into the church after 10 years of being out of it. For a while I was an atheist and then an agnostic. However, God delivered me out of a difficult and strange period of my life that left me without doubt of His existence and goodness. It's a bit of a long read, so bear with me. A couple weeks into February of 2018, I experienced some dreams of a strange nature during a time where I was isolated, depressed, and desperate. I've dealt with anxiety and depression for a long time, and I was at the end of my rope. I had considered seriously committing suicide 2 years ago, and when the depression hit this time, I couldn't take it anymore. I was searching desperately for something that would allow me to leave the situation I was in. I was addicted to gaming and was very isolated. I also fell heavily into a series of books I was rereading at the time that I had a great obsession with. The Dark Tower series by Stephen King. A few months into a reread of this series, I had a dreams in February 2018, one of which I think was prophetic, having to do with seeing a woman and man in the dream that I later saw the next day while walking and while watching TV. This was a man and woman that I hadn't met or seen before. There were also aspects of the dreams, which I can't easily get into because it's difficult to explain due to the content, that led me to believe that the Dark Tower series having to do with parallel universes was real. I became convinced that there was a world parallel to ours, like the books, that I could gain access to if I used certain objects that I had in my possession. After weird events also began occurring in my home, with my television, and with me. I told my parents about all of it. They were adamant that what I was experiencing was demonic deception and that I should cease reading these books and give myself over to God. Being stubborn and delusional, I decided to continue in what I thought was a great discovery and a way out of my situation. Events transpired over the next few days that left me in a state of confusion and despair. My father also ended up in the hospital that week. It wasn't until I began to cry out to Jesus that things began to change. I began to hear from God during this time. I felt like I should rid myself of the books as well as the stuff I had gathered connected to them. I eventually ended up getting rid of all the books and objects connected to them, as well as a lot of other stuff including my games. We were doing some work in my room at the time, so luckily I had something to help keep my mind off what had been happening as well as grow in the Word from listening to 107.9 on my radio. When we finally returned to church a couple weeks later, the sermon and series was about the book of Daniel, some of which has to do with prophetic dreams and visions among other things. I know now that this wasn't a coincidence. Once I started getting involved in the church again and reading the Bible, I found out that these things really aren't as uncommon or unbelievable as they seem. My men's Bible study at the time had members that had experienced supernatural and amazing things as well. I know this isn't going to sound credible if you aren't a Christian. Back when I didn't believe, these stories didn't seem compelling or true to me. However, I can tell you that if you reach out to God wholeheartedly, He will reveal Himself to you. I'd like to ask that if you're going through something right now, some kind of challenge or difficulty, that you reach out to God and ask Him to help you. Sometimes it may not seem like anything is happening, but if you're willing to hold on and push through, you can see him move in your situation in miraculous ways. Here's more about the gospel here. https://www.tvcresources.net Resource Library Articles The Gospel of Jesus Christ. If any of you would like to receive or feel led to receive Jesus Christ as your Savior, pray this and believe it with all your heart. Dear God, I know that I am a sinner and there is nothing that I can do to save myself. I confess my complete helplessness to forgive my own sin or to work my way to heaven. At this moment I trust Christ alone as the one who bore my sin when he died on the cross. I believe that he did all that will ever be necessary for me to stand in your holy presence. I thank you that Christ was raised from the dead as a guarantee of my own resurrection. As best as I can, I now transfer my trust to him. I am grateful that he has promised to receive me despite my many sins and failures. Father, I take you at your word. I thank you that I can face death now that you are my Savior. Thank you for the assurance that you will walk with me through the deep valley. Thank you for hearing this prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Good luck and may God bless you. And remember, Satan is a spirit of fear. Show less. Reply.
All right, so like I said in the intro, that was a message I received a month ago, something to that effect, quite a while ago. Anyways, and so I figured I would respond to it. Now, first and foremost, what I want to say is simply that I got nothing against anybody who decides to be a Catholic, who decides that they had an experience and they found their spirituality within the Catholic Church and decides to be a Christian. I got nothing against that whatsoever. Nothing. Not, okay? Even more so than that, I think I said this before, but when it comes to priests and all that, I know I may have bagged on priests before, and I know there's been a lot of bad press about priests, but anybody as a child, now depending on the time frame, so let's say, like I said before, I think there's a lot of priests and nuns that may have been gay back in my parents' age and even before that, and because that was a bad thing and was a sin and all that, I think I maybe were forced into whatever you call it there, where the priests go. I've said it before, I can't even think of the name, but into like the monasteries, not monasteries, that's monks, into the anyways, forced them to become a priest and a nun. I think a lot of them also felt like there was something wrong with them and was told and learned and was programmed within them that, you know, give themselves to Jesus and God and Jesus will fix them. So they go into the monasteries, they go into these, to become priests and all that, right? And nuns. So I think that had a lot to do with a lot of old priests in the past. And I think that, I've also said, whenever priests were running Catholic schools and nuns were running Catholic schools, I think a lot of children, you know, they got too close, they're showing affection towards each other, or just being bad in general. You have all these men and women who are sexually frustrated and can't express themselves like that, and so they have a huge sexual block, you know what I mean? They have all this energy coming in that way, not expressing enough of it out, even if they're doing 3 different projects a day, let's say, you know, or at least a week. Still wouldn't be enough Mars energy going out. You would still have it blocked in because you still have to release that. And a lot of people say sex is your drive, it's your will, save up your seed for your magic. And while that's all true, if you are keeping that for like 2 weeks to do a spell, when you do that spell, whenever you release it all into there, but you still haven't released down there, well then you should also release that later, looking into a sigil of that same spell, something to that effect, because it's still gonna make you feel shitty after. But all that's to say that today and in the past, anybody who decided to become a priest, a nun, or take up that vow of celibacy and be chaste and all that, I've got nothing but respect for them, thinking they can do that, thinking they can, take down that So I'm just trying to find the map because that's where it's, all right, there it is. Thinking they can do that, and that's very respectful. And you know, at one point I thought maybe that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. And I think that has to do with maybe my Jupiter and Pisces in the 12th house, depending on what chart you look at, and maybe my Mars and Neptune and Capricorn and Saturn and Uranus and Sagittarius, and you know, Scorpio having Pluto in it in the 6th house, well, beginning in the 6th house, but also going into the 7th house. So, very philosophical, very, and that's where my South Node is, somewhere, it's right on the line between Libra and Scorpio. It's depending on where you look, it's either more in Libra or more in Scorpio. Where my South Node is, somewhere I'm comfortable, what I've done in past lives, what feels natural to me, and my North Node's in Aries, on the line of Aries and Taurus, but just in Aries. So I'm guessing that means if it's in Aries, then it should be in Scorpio, but I'm not positive, because then it would be Taurus, then it would be Libra, right? I think, anyways, how it would work. But anyways, I could have that wrong. So, but all that being said, this comment, they didn't say anything bad about it. This was on my double episode, Water Magic and all that. I get into quite a bit of things in there, and I listened to the episode yesterday to kind of see where this might be coming from. But a few things I want to talk about. So, the parents being Catholic, this kid having Catholic programming, this person having Catholic programming when they were younger, whatever the case was, and they said they were listening for a brief time, but long enough period, or was reading the Dark Tower novels by Stephen King. And it has something to do with parallel universes and all that. And then he was experiencing that. Sorry, I mean, no disrespect. And I want to first just point out simply that this is what I do. This is how I program myself for magic to be real. So there's many things we can do in our lifetime, and for programming, for anything. So what is magic? What is witchcraft? What is the occult? What is esotericism? Well, depending on who you are, if you're Catholic, you're going to think it's satanic, demonic rituals to get power and try to rule the world or whatever, which simply isn't the case. But to me, it's magic. Let's just use that broad term. Being a magician, being a witch, is somebody who knows that our mind is something way larger than what we're told. It's somebody who knows that we aren't taught everything, and even more than that, we might even have been being deceived. I don't think in our generation, but I think somewhere along the line they decided to suppress some knowledge, and after a few generations, it just becomes the standard. And there's no way to get this information back unless you go within and you start helping people find out this stuff, and that's kind of what happened. I think that's what spurred on things like the internet blowing up so fast. Well, people are suppressing knowledge from us, and whoever, our creator, us, Mother Nature, the link to the divine within us, which is also within the people who are suppressing stuff, we're linked all the time, all of us. So as much as I said before, whoever, let's say there is elite groups, and they are far advanced, and they are far better than us, and they know way more than we do. We're just scratching the surface. Well, we have a link to them. Once you get that clear connection between your conscious and your subconscious, and you start tapping into the unconscious, and you can start connecting your unconscious to other people's unconscious and tapping into their subconscious, where you can extract that information. That's when you see people start writing books. Like, I don't even want to say any names, but there's many books where people started writing, and then traditions calling them up being, hey, you're giving out our secrets. How the hell you know all this shit? It happened with a bunch of guys. So, point is, this is how this happens. I made an episode a long time ago about the history of occult, the occult history or something like that, and it was all these different traditions, nowhere near enough traditions, but, a little fair, basic bases. And that was one of the main key things I wanted people to take out of it. So then that's when I added my commentary at the end saying, you can't hold this shit down. We're never going to stop the occult knowledge. We're never going to be able to suppress this because we are all linked together. But nonetheless, so I said a while ago when I started this path, I had a Christian background. I've read the Bible front to back as recent as somewhere 8 months ago. I did it once again. Now, not all of it was read. Some of it was listened to during my sleep and all that. Especially when I got to some books I didn't really like. I still felt like I needed to read them, so I read them. But I would fall asleep listening to them. And wherever I landed, I would just continue from there. I didn't bother going back to anything I fell asleep to and rereading. Fuck that. point is, I know my Bible pretty good. And there's multiple versions, so someone could be like, well, that's not accurate, that's not accurate. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's accurate to my version, but yeah, probably not to your version. So I concede all that nonsense. But I had a Christian background, and one of the ways that I decided I was going to program myself to stop, to get rid of any programming that I don't know that could be holding me back. Because I learned a while ago that I could have programming in me, being that I'm a Christian. I read the Bible as a kid. I've read the Bible multiple times. I used to go to bed doing the rosary when I thought I was really bad. I'd fall asleep to it, but I would go as far as I can, all the way up. 10 Hail Marys, and I don't know what in English, but in French it was Le Gros Hospital Père. It was a small little prayer, and then it's an Our Father, and then 10 Hail Marys, and that little prayer, it was on the string, and then you're on the big ball for the Our Father, and then the Hail Mary, all the way down to the Acts of the Apostles, and then all those extra prayers all the way going down to where the crucifixion is. I did all that. I used to do that all the time, just so whatever. Anyways, point is, I assumed the worst. I wasn't going to just assume, okay, well, there's a chance I have programming in me that money is the root of all evil and all that other shit that goes along with the Bible, since I was programmed that the Bible, whatever the Bible programs people to believe, whatever programming comes with, I'm a Roman Catholic. I assume that everything that's said in the Bible, everything that every priest has ever said on record, that's written down to, like 10 Commandments are supposed to be the things that if you break, you go to hell. But then Beatitudes were added, and things like from the priest saying, if you don't come to church on Sunday, you can go to hell. And if you get a divorce, you can go to hell, and all these other craps. So I just assumed all inclusively everything that has to do with that. If I am a Roman Catholic, which I am, I still am on paper, but I listened to the Frater Xavier video with Michael something, I can't remember his last name, but he's from Christian, anyways, it doesn't matter, but it was the Not So Great Debate, which I think I talked about in that one video, where that person, where this person wrote this comment, and I used that to deprogram myself. So it was Frater Xavier going against a Christian guy, and in all honesty, if it was a debate, Frater killed him. Now that's my point of view, because anytime the other guy brought up a point from the Bible or whatever, and I mean, this is the other guy sent Frater his information, and Frater put his on top of that. And it's not like the other guy got a copy of that to put his on top of it, and they kept going back and forth, and then agreed on the final copy. So Frater did have the upper hand, but nonetheless, that's how I wanted it, and I used that to reprogram myself. I listened to that bitch every fucking day for at least 2 months, maybe even more, and it worked. And more than that, by listening and watching magic videos every single day, non-stop, for a minimum from 6 to 12 hours a day. That's my minimum to maximum. 6 to 12 hours a day, and then going to sleep to different occult books. And if I didn't know what book to put on, I would just put on my curriculum, the Great Work of Self-Transformation. I put that bitch on, or I put on the Emerald Tablets, or I put on the Kabbalion, you know what I mean? If I didn't know what to put on, or even the Luciferian Doctrine, or I put on recently, but I would put on the Inverse, the Tree of Death, what's it called? Fuck. I can't remember. The Clipoth, not Kabbalah, the Clipoth. So I would do things like that, and many others, what's her name? Madame, The Secret Doctrine. I put on Manny P. Hall, I put on Alan Watts, even Jordan Peterson, you know what I mean? So I was programming myself that psychology was the same as magic, that what you have in your mind. And I know that if you take on the personification, if I say I'm a magician, even if I say I'm the Illuminati, for God's sakes, then I can do the things that that group can do after it gets into my subconscious, right? Subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and fake. It doesn't matter if something's real or fake. If you get into your subconscious that if say you're a family of 4 people, well, 1 in every 4 gets cancer. Well, you're going to hear that enough times, there's going to be 1 member of your family that's going to get cancer. That's just the way it goes. And that's not in my programming. I've removed that as well. Maybe we'll do an episode about that someday, how you can remove that from yourself as well. Sigil magic and recorders is how I did that. But the point is, I took on that I'm going to be a magician, I'm going to be a witch, and witches and magicians can do anything, and not anything in the sense of like I can fire out of my fucking eyes or hands and suck in energy from this hand and then fucking transmute it out this hand and give that healing energy. Nothing like that. But I mean, I know how magic works, and to me, the way magic works is anything you in your subconscious mind can make possible. So if you get in your subconscious mind that you can be a good singer, it can happen. If you get in your subconscious mind that you are a talented soccer player, hockey player, fucking skateboarder, snowboarder, whatever, roofer, contractor, whatever the case is, that will become. If you get in your mind like I did, that my manifestations happen fast, that I can manifestation just within my mind, I can manifest just within my words, I can manifest just by writing down. These are all things I did. I got that in my subconscious, and now it's so. So then after this, when things started happening, like I thought about my wife killing a deer and she would hit a raccoon, coincidence, I mean, it's still an animal, right? I said, okay, I need to add programming that I can only manifest from my altar. Meaning, if I'm on the couch, I can, within my imagination, pretend I'm on my altar and ask for what I want as if it's already happened and manifest, or actually physically go to my altar. And this would be a protection so that when I'm in the car, fucking putting fear emotion into my wife hitting an animal, and you know, I put so much fear and I start visualizing it happening, and maybe I even say something like, "But you know, put your brights on so you don't hit something." You know what I mean? And for some reason, I'm linked to my subconscious, and so that's enough will, that's enough fire, Mars projection, symbolism added to everything else I was doing, and boom, she hit something. I don't want that to happen, right? God forbid I picture something about somebody, close relative, and then something happened. So. But all that's to say is this person was talking about her Dark Tower stuff when things started happening like that. Well, yeah, this is how this works. And instead of pursuing that and realizing that, well, if she wanted to change that, I mean, you can't know what you don't know. And, you know, if they were a child at the time or a kid or young adult at the time, asked their parents for advice, and their parents said, well, give yourself to Jesus and all that. Well, that program was probably already in her. So it felt natural. And within her, all the times going to church saying, if you let Jesus in, he'll save you and all that. Well, that's real to these people because it's been programmed in them. But that's the extent of what that can do for you. And even more than that, there's something way more dangerous that comes along with this. And it's the fact that the Bible and your preachers and pastors or priests, within these, your parents, everybody, you know, within the Bible, it's all there. And it says that, you know, I'll play something for you after, and it's actually from this link. And, you know, in a nutshell, this is what I was basically told to, how God had to sacrifice himself for us because we are part of him, and not in the same sense as I understand it, but only God can pay the price, but God can't pay the price because he's all good. So what did he do? Well, he had to send down his son in the flesh to pay the price for humanity. So even though we don't deserve it because we're nothing but a bunch of dirty fucking sinners, he made somebody who was more holy than all of us. Jesus sent him down and had him killed, and that's how gates of heaven were opened for us and all that bullshit. And I wanna get this point across today more than anything is if that's something you believe, then it's highly toxic. And it's one of the reasons that when you die and before you actually go where you're supposed to go, when you have this DMT trip within your mind, whenever the DMT, like whenever you go to sleep at night, DMT is released. When you die, the rest of the DMT gets released throughout your body and it's no longer there. Well, when that happens, you're going to have this religious experience. And if you died in fear, you're going to get absorbed probably by the negative, the bad. Anyways, I won't talk about that. The point is, you're either going to go to heaven or hell, and it's all going to be within your head. And here's the thing. 15 minutes on DMT in your head can probably feel like a lifetime. And it's the last thing your consciousness gets to do, right? This is the final thing your consciousness gets to fucking do before you move on to where you're supposed to move on. And who knows, maybe if you believe in this so hard, you literally get stuck in that. I don't know. This is uncharted territory, but what I do know is your body releases DMT when you die, and this is why people that die on the table and come back to life, they have these religious experiments. I'm going to play Frederick Xavier, not so far, probably either right after the Jesus thing, right after the information that my person who wrote me this comment sent in. It's not very long, a couple minutes for that. I'll play a video by Frater Xavier, and he talks about the whole DMT process, so you understand. I played it before, but I'll play it again. Point is, I truly believe this. This is why we practice astral travel. This is why we practice lucid dreaming. Because when you dream, you get that DMT trip, and you want to be able to navigate in a dream state where you're going to go. Because if you die and you are in this DMT, if your DMT is released and you're within a dream, how many people have had a dream that felt like it's been like a lifetime, like it was over a big period of time? You know what I mean? A long period of time. I've had many dreams like that, and it was scary. It's like, holy fuck, man. I've had good ones that felt like a big long period of time as well. So the point I'm trying to get at is this kind of programming locks you. Ever watched the show Lucifer? Well, the new season just came out, and that's the only TV I watch. I find it very interesting. And a lot of it, I think, is programming. A lot of it, I think, is trying to get people to hate the archangels and think beings light or evil and all this. And then maybe there's some truth to that, maybe there isn't. No one really ever knows. I use the archangels all the time, but Archangel Michael is Lucifer's fucking brother, twin brother, and he's trying to kill Lucifer and fuck up his whole life. But this is an archangel who's there to protect me when I'm doing my magic. So I don't like that shit. I don't like that seeping in my head. So I gotta make sure I'm really conscious and protecting my subconscious when I watch TV. It's pretty intense, the things I do when I watch that show. And it's just to kind of see where mainstream's going with this. But the point is, he says that people send themselves down into hell. It's like the tarot card where the two lovers are down there with the devil in between them and they're chained to the throat, but their hands are free and they can untie it anytime they want. People willingly put themselves into hell because they believe there's good and evil, bad bullshit. And if they think they were bad, then they put themselves into hell. And what I'm trying to say is, let's say, because the point Frater Xavier makes, 15 minutes will be too long for the people that die and come back. When you do DMT, it doesn't last very long, even though you could have a fucking whole conversation that feels like 25 minutes and you could only be out for like a minute. I've done salvia, which is very similar in a lot of ways. I was performing on stage. It was like 15 seconds that I was out. One time I did it, fell off my chair, hit myself in the nuts, but I was strumming a guitar, and I performed fucking like 4 songs while I was on stage. Yeah, I was only out for 15 seconds. So that's the kind of thing I'm trying to talk about. But the point is, Frater makes is that these people weren't past the DMT yet because, you know, it takes about 15 minutes for a large dose when smoked to get through your system. And you have a hard time remembering it, kind of like a dream, right? And that's a larger dose than what you receive when you're dreaming at night, and you can dream for like 8 hours, 6 hours. Point is, these people didn't get past the DMT. So they're them seeing God going to heaven or hell, that the TV evangelists are showing everybody on TV. They didn't get past the DMT yet. Otherwise, after the 15 minutes, they'd be brain dead and they would have nothing to fucking say. They'd be a fucking vegetable. So what I'm trying to say is, when you pass on and you have that final fucking thing, what happens when your consciousness, first of all, you haven't been a magician, you haven't been practicing lucid dreaming. I do that. I try to do that every night. Every time I catch a dream now, I practice, and I eventually, it's almost every single time now. I can't astral travel. I'm not even going to pretend I can. I think my body wants me to, but I think because of the symbolic zone I take, I'm not allowed to. I think it's because it's holding me back or whatever, but I'm not too clear on that. Point I'm trying to get at is, I can take control of my dreams every time now, but once I start doing the things I want to do, I end up waking up. So, but the point is, whenever I die and I have that DMT trip, well, there's no waking up from that, right? If I end up taking that to where I want to go within that last thing, and I take it to the creator of all, and point is, I'll be able to, by the time I pass on, I'll be able to navigate my last DMT trip to where I gotta go. And I'm not going into no heaven or hell bullshit, because there's some fucking guidelines that were programmed in my head that aren't even fucking real. But that's what I'm trying to say is you have this book that you were shoved down your throat as a kid, telling you over and over again, like a fucking affirmation, that you are a no good sinner, that you are so bad that God himself had to create a son to come here to save your ass. And now all you have to do is repent. You have to take the sacraments. You have to be part of their church, go to church, and repent and take Jesus in and you'll be saved. But it's like, no, you don't have to do none of that to be saved. You don't have to do a fucking single thing like that to be saved. Because that book is telling you that you're a sinner. You aren't a sinner. You weren't born with no original sin. There's none of that shit. That is horse shit. That was something that was taught and told to us to take away your power, to make you go to an establishment every Sunday and put money in that little fucking thing, to give the power to the church and all those people. I mean, for fuck's sakes, they all look at astrology. Why do you think the Vatican's got a big fucking telescope there? Why do you think when the sun hits St. Peter's Square, it tells you the time? They have that right out there for everybody to see. St. Peter is the biggest statue in St. Peter's Square. It's not even a big Jesus one. And that's Jupiter. And Jupiter is the biggest planet. You think there's no correlation there? You're the idiot going to say astrology is from the devil, yet these people are one telling you to believe that, yet they're following astrology. Like, everybody needs to wake the fuck up. And I'm not saying to not use the Bible. You can use the Bible, but you have to use it on your own terms. You got to remove all the programming you've had as a Christian, as a Roman Catholic, or whatever the case. I know it's going to be an unpopular video. I know I'll probably lose followers after this, and I don't fucking care. Because once this truly sinks in, they'll come back. And everybody needs to understand that. It's a hard thing to swallow. It's something you were taught as a kid that you believed in. You had hard times, you asked God for help, and sometimes He helped you. So you believe that if you do this, you're turning your back on God. But I'm here to tell you that God you spoke to as a kid is the same God that I believe in as well. But it's not the one that was shoved down your throat from the Bible. Because that was man-made. And there's a lot of stories in the Bible that are true, that ring true, that feel good when you read them, that you know are divinely inspired, and absolutely. But there's other stories in there where it's like, after you beat them in war, guys, rape the women, take the kids. If the girls have had their period, you can fuck them too, take them all as your wives, and loot and do whatever you want. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a man saying that. That's a man who wants power, who wants everybody to be like, well, this is wrong. Like, no. God said it right here, guys. Look, it's okay. Okay. Primitive people, right? As long as it's okay by God, it's okay. Like, no. The Bible is telling you we're a sinner. Therefore, if you believe in the Bible, if you have that programming still in your head, when you die, you're either going to go to heaven or hell. And guess whose moral compass it's going to be based on? I hope it's based on your own, and I hope you have a good sense of that you were good your whole life. But if not, it's going to be based on their rules that were shoved in your head, meaning the 10 Commandments, meaning the Beatitudes, meaning if you went to church or not, if you got a divorce or not, all these little things. So that when you die, and you can't control your own dream, you can't control your own DMT trip, well, then you end up going to this past life, and this God that you're going to meet is going to know all the rules that were programmed in you. It's your subconscious that was programmed against you. This Bible has been used against you. So the Bible is now programmed your subconscious to tell you what you're going to do on your last DMT trip, and it's going to have you locked in there. So yeah, you don't reincarnate, so you don't come back, so you don't go to higher realms, so that all the other guys get to go to the higher realms, and you're fucked. Is that what you want? To keep doing this cycle over and over again because you can't get past your last DMT trip, because you can't navigate your way through this? This is why the Egyptians had their Book of the Dead with all these spells in it. So when you got to your past, whenever you died, and you got to that realm, you can navigate through that and get to either the positive or the negative sources. And depending on if, when they weighed to them, it was weighing your heart against a feather. And if you had a heavy heart, the negative fucking hippopotamus or alligator dude ate you. That's like the negative fucking guy, like from the Napoleon Hill book. The negative versus the positive. The negative part of the electron, or the negative part of the atom, the electron, is the devil. The positive part of the atom is God. That's how Napoleon Dynamite represents it. And this is a battle between the two of them. But anyway, so the Egyptians, the Book of the Dead, they had these spells. They put in their tombs with them, and they navigated through the afterlife. Well, how do you navigate through the afterlife? Well, you, on Earth, you have to learn some spells to do astral travel, lucid dreaming, to get the stuff you want. You can manipulate your reality, and then when you pass on, you can evolve to the next stages and not be brought down by this doctrine that forces this bullshit down your throat. It's not right. It's not right at all. And that's kind of what I wanted to say. So, I'm going to stop it there for now because I think I gave some good points, but I have more to talk about. If I don't come back on, it is what it is. I got a bunch of different videos here and clips for you to listen to. So the next part I'm going to keep going with is the Jesus information. This, you know, he watched my shit, hopefully, and then commented on it. So, you know, I'll give it, I'll let his shit play, whatever. And, you know, if there's any people that watch me that are Christian or whatever, I hope you respect what I'm doing here, and I'm not trying to insult this person, or I'm not trying to insult your religious beliefs, or none of that, okay? I'm trying to make you see my beliefs. And if you think my beliefs have some sound reasoning to them, then great. If you don't, then try not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because if you start watching me, there's something I said you liked, well, keep in mind, I'll keep saying stuff like that. If you guide me and tell me what you want to hear and talk about, well, then it's easier for me to not talk about this stuff that you don't like me hearing. But in all honesty, I think people need to know this stuff, because I truly believe deep inside that this is what's happening. Now, is it done on purpose? I don't know. Is it done by accident? I don't know. Who can ever know? I mean, I'm talking about the afterlife here. What happens when we die? I don't have any first-hand knowledge. Just like the people that wrote the Bible didn't have any first-hand knowledge. And you could say, well, Hermes Trismegistus, you believe in the Emerald's habits and all that. It's like, I believe in that being a divinely inspired book. Do I believe that Hermes came back 3 times incarnated, remembered every time who he was and wrote that? Not really. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying the Hermetic principles make way more sense to me than the stuff in the Bible half the time. And like I said, you can use the Bible to good. I like knowing that, you know, I had this argument this weekend that Cain and Abel, the 2 brothers, they were technically the first 2 pure, well, complete humans. Adam and Eve were made from ground, dirt, whatever. And I know, like, there's other humans there already. So God was making other humans, and this might be where the other religions come from. But I think it's all horseshit, by the way. I think it's all supposed to be mythological, parables, metaphors, you know, similes, meant to tell a story about us. You know what I mean? Before you know psychology, before you know how do you explain stuff? Well, you explain stuff through story, you know? But anyways, but I said that I like using the Bible in the sense of we all come from Cain. Cain was the brother who killed his other brother. And God said if anybody kills Cain, they're gonna kill him and 7 of their family members, and then 70, and so on and so forth for every generation. Avenge sevenfold, right? And I like knowing that I come from evil, because we have an easier time of being in fear, of being jealous, of being hateful. It's easier to make fun of somebody than it is to be like, you know what, you're better than me. I respect you for it, and I'm a little jealous, but I wish you well. That's fucking hard to do. But going around talking bad behind his back to make yourself feel better, that's fucking easy to do, right? So I take that first lesson in Genesis as I am evil and I'm good. I could be Cain, I could be Abel. You know what I mean? I could be fucking Noah building an ark to save everybody. Or I could most likely be everybody who's just saying, fuck it, this guy's an idiot, and then dying in the thing. I could be Schindler's List, trying to save people. Or, what's his name, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago, trying to bring light on everybody who in Russia, who was in concentration camps within the Soviet Union. Or, you know, I could be like these guys. Or most likely I would be a Nazi soldier rounding people up. You know, this is part of the Star Side work we got to do. Realizing that you have the capability, and you most likely be the evil motherfucker. You know, those 1 in a million good guys there, there's a really high chance that that would not be fucking you. And knowing that brings you closer to being Schindler, closer to being, can't think of his name. But you know what I mean? It makes you closer to being someone like Noah, who makes the ark, or Abel, who everybody likes, not Cain. But most of us are Cain. That's why Abel died and Cain stayed there. That's why Jesus died and everybody else wrote these fucking stories. Because most of us aren't these beings, but you can aspire to be that. And this is how you can take the Bible and learn the lessons from it. And people don't understand how, like, the prodigal son, well, the one son who's always done good doesn't get praise. The son who's bad and comes back gets all the praise. It's like, well, yeah, he was lost and now he's found. You were always here. We don't take that for granted, but I got to celebrate when the guy who's been lost and come back. And then that's kind of the way Cain felt. Cain got fucking jealous and fucking killed his brother, because it's like, well, God's given him everything and I deserve it because I'm doing just as much as him. It's like, that's the wrong way to think of it, bud. Think of it as, well, I can go get lost and be found too, because you clearly have a resentment within you. You're jealous of your brother. You're not being happy that your brother came back. You know, you're good. You're already, anyways, no point in me talking about this, but the stories can teach everybody something. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. There's a lot of nonsense in the Bible as well. And I think the Bible programs people the wrong fucking way. And we need to learn how to program ourselves. And as long as we have this book, and as long as everybody's saying, well, this book has been around for 2,000 years, and it was the bestseller for how long, and it's got, yeah, it does. But it doesn't mean you should believe in it and take it on and be programmed by it and saying that you're a sinner. And that you should go to this church and pay this and that. Like, I mean, the priests aren't even that fucking holy when they're doing all these bad things to kids and whatnot. And, you know, there's been more bloodshed in the name of religion and church and Christ and, you know, all this shit. Because, anyways, it's not, it makes no sense. And I don't want my kind being fooled. I don't want a bunch of my people being fucked over. I want everybody to be able to start doing a dream journal, taking control of their dreams. And, you know, you don't have to take a magic. You don't want to take a magic, you still think it's of the devil, that's fine. But start learning how to take control of your dreams so that when you die, you can navigate through your DM teacher, because maybe that's the test. And maybe once, if you just end up being where everybody else goes and becomes judged, and then you end up losing it because your own subconscious mind is against you because the Bible programmed you against your own fucking mind, and you just keep getting reincarnated, well, I told you so is all I could say, I guess. Once again, it's a speculation, but I highly think it's probable. And what do you got to lose? If I'm right, whatever. If I'm wrong, God's not going to hate you for this shit. You know what I mean? He's not going to hate you for trying to see if this is possible. Worst case, every night at night you get to have fun in your dreams. If you're a guy who doesn't, you know, have sex much right now or has trouble with the ladies, well, then you can have threesomes every night. And it's not illegal, it's your dreams, right? If it happens right now, are you to blame for what your dreams are doing when you can control them? No. And, you know, if you start making money, having a business, and it filters down into your life, and then you realize, holy fuck, there's something to this magic thing. Well, yeah, this is what we're supposed to learn. But we have this book that everybody is thrown at and told that it's the word of God as soon as they're born. Word of God, word of God, word of God. Baptize your kid, do this, do this, do this. So you don't realize how powerful your fucking mind is. So you don't end up using your mind the correct way. So you don't look inside and learn meditation and learn how to use your brain. Now we have even more distractions. But this COVID-19 fucking shit scaring everybody that the rapture's here, thinking the Bible, oh my God, it's got to be real because the shit's happening. So, well, this was written for how many years? And if you have the power to do whatever you want, how hard is it to start making these bad things happen and make it look like the rapture's happening? I mean, if it was the reverse, anyways. Point I'm trying to say is this book has been programming us from a young age. It's the first thing we're shot at. Learn this. You know, we have all these Catholic schools more than any other fucking kind of religious school, at least here in Canada, the States, and maybe England. But I think England's a lot more liberal than we give it credit to. You know, the monarch is Catholic, but they still have astrologers there too. Like I said, the fucking, I forget the name of the fucking, if you look up the name of the telescope at the Vatican, it's either Lucifer or Helios, which is helium, which is what the sun is, or Satan, or something like that. It's something crazy. You won't even believe it, but it's a fact. They put it out there for you to know, just so you see the bullshit. And this is one of the things I tried to get at that one time. I was talking about the whole Ralph Smart thing and him talking about Hollywood being evil. I said you can't just hand people the truth on a platter because they won't believe it. You have to polarize people against you. So we're all shot into the Roman Catholic or some kind of Protestant or some kind of spin-off, you know, maybe it's Islam, maybe it's Judaism, but it's one of these Abrahamic religions as a kid. And then maybe we get polarized against it for a fucking while. But then maybe something happens, we get scared, and we go back to it because we're scared little bitches. I mean, I'm not, but that's what happens to a lot of people. Well, how do you get people to find the truth? Well, like I said, like I've been saying, fear-based media is your first stage. When you start looking into all this fear-based media and you start believing and realizing that everything you were taught was a fucking lie, a crock of shit, okay? You now are polarized against your own beliefs. You're polarized against your own subconscious mind. But you only have it on a conscious level. It's not deep in your subconscious yet. But your subconscious is saying, no, what we were told is all true. And you're saying, no, look at this shit. I don't believe in this. So now you have this fucking, you don't have cross communication, but you have this, but all of a sudden your bottom, your root chakra opens up, which connects your Earth Star chakra, because Venus, Libra, Saturn and Libra, Anyways, whenever you open up Saturn, you start getting energy from the Earth. It starts healing you. You start getting whatever, right? And if you do the next step properly, you open up the moon one, the sacral one, then you can start really opening up to this. But some people get stuck there, but at least they still open the chakra. But this is the first stage. This is one of the first things I taught. I thought it was one of the most important things for people to know. I still think it's pretty important, but point is, you have to be polarized against your own beliefs for you to be able to open up your mind. Because otherwise, your self-limiting beliefs, your belief systems, all the programming that was put in your head is going to rule you for your entire life, and you're going to go through your entire life on this autopilot without any change, without any, anything. I'm telling you, that's how it works. I mean, I'm just speaking out my ass here. This is just what I think and I believe. This is a speculation episode, but it's what happened to me. It's what happened to a lot of people. It's what everybody's happening right now. COVID-19 is forcing people to open their fucking eyes and be like, what the fuck is going on? And they're starting to look at all these other things and figuring out all these conspiracies. Like I said, go look at the Vatican. Why the fuck would the Vatican, who hates the devil, who doesn't believe in the devil, name a fucking telescope after the devil? That makes no fucking sense, right? It's there just to get you to be like, what the fuck is going on? And then you can start opening up your mind. I don't think Catholic Church is evil. I don't think there's Illuminati and all the satanic groups eating babies. I don't think these people are all evil at all. I think ultimately, whether these people know it or not, this is the game. People have to be polarized against. There has to be this duality. And then once you realize that you're not for or against either one of these fucks, well, then you can work on opening up these chakras, doing the tree of life, transforming yourself, because you're not for or against. But once you're on a side and you're just within your belief systems on either the right or the left, or Christian or Satan, or Judaism versus, doesn't matter. When you're stuck in that, then you're stuck in that. But something has to happen. And I think this age of Aquarius shit, I think this whole coronavirus things and everything that's happened, all this contradictory, controversial, holy fuck, oh my god, conspiracy shit is all there just to get people to wake up. I really do. I don't know if they know it or not, but I think that's what's happening. I think that's what happens. So, and in the grand scheme of things, this is what it is. And this is my job is for the people that have already been awake for a while, who need new information, outside of the box thinking. I'm trying to give that to you. I'm trying to show you that, if you still have some Bible, maybe programming in you, you might want to get rid of it, because maybe that's why you can't astral travel. Maybe that's why I can't astral. Maybe I haven't got rid of all mine. Maybe reading the Bible not that long ago probably did more harm than good. I don't know. But I like knowing that shit to be able to debate and argue shit about it. But point is, it's all going to relate up to the good. If you haven't read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, it's free on YouTube. It's a long fucking book. I mean, the interview with the devil itself is like 4 hours long. I listened to it today. This has sparked this whole thing, plus that comment. But yeah, I'm going to play that a little bit of religious information where it's basically going to tell you how much of a sinner you are and how great Jesus and God, what they did was the greatest thing in the world, which is just programming you to believe that you're a sinner, that you need to follow the commandments, and this is, it's just reinforcing the shit in your head. So I don't like playing it, but I really want you to hear it. And then Frederick Xavier is going to come on right after that talking about DMT and how it's bullshit, and it's going to be awesome. So please stick to it the whole time. I hope you enjoyed, and have yourselves a great fucking day.
The Gospel of Jesus Christ Summary. The Gospel is that Christ died for our sins and he rose, and through faith in him we can be reconciled to the Father. For I am not ashamed of the Gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes. Romans 1:16. Gospel 1. The Teachings of Jesus and the Jeff Ashley, January 24, 2009. Topic: The Gospel. Transcript. Summary. The Gospel is that Christ died for our sins and he rose, and through faith in him we can be reconciled to the Father. For I am not ashamed of the Gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes. Romans 1:16. Gospel 1. The Teachings of Jesus and the Apostles. The Christian Revelation. The story of Christ's life and teachings, especially as contained in the first 4 books of the New Testament, namely Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, usually initial capital letter. Any of these 4 books something regarded as true and implicitly believed. to take his report for gospel a doctrine regarded as of prime importance, political gospel glad tidings, especially concerning salvation and the kingdom of God as announced to the world by Christ, often initial capital letter, ecclesiastical and extract from one of the four gospels, forming part of the Eucharistic service in certain churches. The word gospel is translated from the Greek
Evangelion,
which means good news. It is the message of the life, death and resurrection of Christ through which the believer is saved from sin and to life. Indeed, there are various ways of looking at the gospel, depending upon the way in which you are looking at the term. This article will be restricted to the theological implications for mankind, but we must also be cognizant of the greater story of God's creation, its corruption and his reconciliation. See the article What is Reconciliation? For a broader sense of God's overarching purpose in the good news. In its most simple form, the gospel is a confession of the primary tradition of faith which is presented in 1 Corinthians 15:1-8. Now I make known to you, brethren, the gospel which I preached to you, which also you received, in which also you stand, by which also you are saved, if you hold fast the word which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. After that he appeared to more than 500 brethren at one time, most of whom remain until now, but some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles, and last of all, as to one untimely born, he appeared to me also. 1 Corinthians 15:1-8. In this concise summary, we learn the following. It is by the gospel that we are saved. We are not saved by any works of the flesh or attempts and efforts to reach out to God. Neither are we saved by any religious system nor any other belief. It is purely and only on the merits of and by trusting in the gospel that we are saved. 2. Christ died. While we will focus on the significance of the event in the next point, it is important to point out that assertion necessarily implies incarnation. Being divine, the Son could not die. So, he emptied himself of prestige and privilege. 3. And was clothed with flesh, bone and suffering, being born of the Virgin and living a perfect and obedient life until he breathed his last. 3. He died for our sins. He bore our sins and the wrath of his Father as our perfect sacrifice. This is substitutionary atonement, that Jesus died for our sins and in our place. He took the curse which was ours and made it his own. He was our substitute. Though we deserved to die, yet he died. He died according to the Scriptures. He was not taken by surprise, and neither was this planned some last-minute insertion into God's redemptive program. From all eternity Christ was appointed and willingly chose to submit himself to death. He was buried. His burial represents to us his actual death to assure us that the price has adequately been paid. Done away with is the claim that perhaps he merely escaped from the cross and reappeared. He truly died and lay in a tomb for 3 days. 6. He was raised on the third day. Being fully God, death could not hold him. Our payment being rendered in full, he rose victorious over death and sin. We have evidence of divine satisfaction. God's wrath was fully spent. 7. He appeared to a number of persons. This is not some contrived narrative to make us feel good. Rather, those who witnessed to his resurrection attested to it not only in word, but by choosing gladly to face death. Such confidence on their part inspires subsequent confidence in those of us who have not seen with our own eyes. The above summary is a basic answer to the question, what is the gospel? It is the good news that though we were dead in our transgressions and sins, for while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, in our place. 5. For the means by which to enter into the benefits of the gospel. See, what must I do to be saved? And is Christ the only way? In order to believe in this gospel, it is necessary that we try to put together the requisite elements of the tradition which Paul mentions. These elements include sin, death, substitutionary atonement, and faith. Sin. In the beginning man and woman were created good, in the image of God, in harmony with themselves, each other, their creator and the rest of his creation. However, such peace was not to last. Rather, taking of the fruit which they were commanded not to eat, the man and woman succumbed to sin's enticing deceit and fell. No longer did they enjoy the accord in which they had lived. Now, cursed with pain, suffering, solitude, and ultimately death, they were alienated from a holy God. 6. This curse was not limited only to the man and woman, but rather has been passed on to all of their progeny. 7. And therefore lies within all men according to their very nature. We are, by nature and by choice, cut off from the one who created us. From the entirety of Scripture, we can see that man is not born into a state of neutrality, but is rather, by nature, a hostile and willing enemy of God. Man's heart and mind are darkened and dulled such that the fleeting pleasures of sin are more alluring than the eternal joy of the Master. Man is utterly rebellious, unable and unwilling to save himself. Death. How does the potter deal with the rebellion of his clay? Genesis 2:17 But from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat from it you will surely die. God's warning is not empty and his word is always accomplished. 8 So the man and his wife and all of the generations which proceed from them are subjected to the curse of death. Not only are they given over to physical death, but also spiritual death in which they are estranged from the Heavenly Father. This spiritual death points toward hell, the absence of the goodness of the Lord, an eternity of suffering for a slew of sins against an infinitely holy God. We have been separated from our greatest good and united with the one who sought to usurp the throne. Substitutionary atonement. The wages of sin is death, the Bible says, and someone has to pay. There is a penalty which accompanies our transgression. Man has trespassed and therefore is the only one who should pay, and yet he cannot, being himself sinful. God has demanded payment and yet is the only one who could pay. However, he certainly should not, being himself holy. What was to be done? God alone could pay, and so pay he did. With the blood of his Son, the Son of God became sin and bore the wrath of his Father, being a curse on our behalf. He became our substitution, dying for our sins, in our place. He did not deserve to die, we did, but he willingly became obedient to the payment required that we might be reconciled to him. We deserved to die and owed a payment, but he purchased our freedom. God has been declared both just and the justifier of the justified. 9. Faith. How do we enter into the blessings of the divine transaction? Given that we are blinded by sin and are natural enemies of God, can we really expect to earn such entrance? How good is good enough to be considered perfect? In order to prevent human boasting and gain all glory in the glorious work of salvation, God established only one way to gain entry into his presence. Through faith alone may we enter into the joys of our Lord. Conclusion. This is the gospel. Christ died for our sins and he rose, and through faith in him we can be reconciled to the Father.
I'm occasionally asked about, but I've been holding off on answering until now, is Frater, what happens to us after we pass away? Is there an afterlife? And if so, what's it like? I'll be answering these questions and more. Let's get into it. All right, so it's time to answer the big question. What happens to us after we die? The big reveal. And the short answer is, I don't know. Now, I have my opinions, just like everybody else, and I can talk about what I do know, which we'll get to in a moment. But as for the afterlife experience, I have none, and therefore I do not have that first-hand knowledge. And anyone who tells you otherwise is either a liar or a damn fool. You have the religions telling you what's going to happen after you pass when they're full of it. It's all nonsense, because they just don't know. I mean, the Christians will tell you, and I know I pick on them a lot, but we'll get to some of the others. They'll tell you they know what happens. You're going to stand judgment. You're either going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell. They'll lay it all out for you. They know exactly what's going to go down. Then you ask them, how do you know? And they'll tell you, because it's in the Bible. That's not knowledge. That's belief and faith. They have no first-hand experience, and therefore no real knowledge. But they'll tell you what they believe as if it were fact in an attempt to recruit you and ultimately gain control of you. That's what organized religion is, or has become. If it wasn't so controlling, it wouldn't be so polarizing. Should think about that for a moment. Now, I am aware that allegedly there have been people who have come back after having passed away. returning with tales of heaven and hell and meeting Jesus. Coincidentally, they only seem to appear on televangelist programs, which I don't know about you, but to me puts a whole question mark on the entire thing. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that they truly had that experience. They saw the light, they met God, which stands for dimethyltryptamine. It's a simple compound found throughout nature in every living being, but it's also one of the most powerful hallucinogens known to man. Even though it's found throughout nature, it's highly illegal. It's classified as a Schedule I drug, I believe, if you see minutes. And when it does, you'll have a hard time remembering what it was that you experienced while you were on it. It fades away and becomes hard to remember, just like a dream, which, non-coincidentally, is one of the times in which your body releases DMT into your system. So every night when you go to sleep, you have a little mini DMT trip while you dream. And then when you wake up, your dreams are hard to remember after so long. Which is why for those of us who keep a dream journal, it's very important to write it down as soon as you wake up, because you will not remember it later. Well, there's another time that DMT is released into your system at a much greater quantity, and that is when you die. And so we come to the things that I do know. Number one, everyone is going to have a massive DMT trip when they pass away, for however fleeting that may be. So what's being on DMT like? Well, I'll let Joe Rogan tell you, since he's done quite a bit of it and is more qualified to explain it.
This is the story of DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, a simple compound found throughout nature which has profound effects on human consciousness.
DMT is literally like having a meeting with God. It's like having a meeting with divine, unbelievably wise, incredibly loving energy, like whatever it is, the source of everything. And it leaves you so humbled that after it's over, you have it's like literally like you're still you still look like you still wear the same clothes you are, but you're not really you anymore. I mean, you literally have been changed. You know, you have experienced something that very few humans experience. And the thought to me that people can go through their entire lives and not know about this is an incredible waste of time. It's like your life could be so much more positive and so much more interesting and fascinating, and you would be so much more humble and aware of what you really are and where you really stand if you just have this experience.
So it's like having a meeting with God, he says. Okay, well, if that's the case, then it's easy to see how somebody that passes away could assume that the DMT they're experiencing is a religious experience. So let's break this down logically. A DMT trip only lasts about 10 to 15 minutes when smoked. I assume that's a large dose, comparable to the amount that's released when you die. I'm not sure. It could be more, it could be less, but let's say 10 to 15 minutes. Someone who passes away and comes back is gone for far less than that. 6-7 minutes tops. Any more than that, and there could be serious brain damage. So they haven't been gone long enough to get past the DMT trip. They wouldn't have had a first-hand experience beyond that. So their entire testimony of what they experienced while they were dead is simply not credible. Yes, they've had a first-hand experience, but to me, knowing what I know about DMT and that it's released when you pass away, they've really only experienced a DMT hallucination. But the televangelists will never tell you about DMT. There's a good chance they may not even know about it. A lot of people don't. It should also be noted that the Christian experience isn't the only experience. There have been people who have come back from other faiths with different tales. It's just that the televangelists aren't rolling those people out in front of their congregations, so you don't hear about them as often. Anyway, that's why the testimony of those who have died and come back simply cannot be trusted. They were tripping balls. And you will too. So number one on our list of what happens when you pass away is you'll be tripping balls on DMT. Now, a lot of people want to know about reincarnation. Coming back as either someone else or something else after you've passed away. And I've met more than a few people in my day who have been really big into looking to their past lives, so to speak. Now, I like the idea of reincarnation because it certainly adheres to the laws of nature that operates in cycles. So I do like the idea of reincarnation because it is secular and fits well within the cycles of nature. There's just one small problem. Any of us who may have come back doesn't know it. We can't remember it. The memory would have been wiped clean. It's a brand new life now. That conscious part of yourself that you identified with as you doesn't come back. The ego doesn't survive. You don't pass away as Dave, and then the light at the end of the tunnel you see is the opening of the birth canal, and you pop out again as Dave, saying, "I'm back, bitches." It just doesn't happen. And the ones who are walking around claiming that they're somebody from a past life all claim to be somebody historically famous. You ever notice that? Because they're not going to say they're Joe Schmo from small town Indiana. No, they're going to be Abraham Lincoln or Joan of Arc. Whatever. Yeah, tell me another one. Now, again, I know there are some people who have claimed to have memories of a past life that have checked out when looked into that, yes, there was a person and these things did happen to them. Okay, let's again give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that they are having flashes of memory of these past lives. So what does that change? That's all they're having are flashes of memory of somebody else, because that's not them anymore. The part of you that is you doesn't come back. So if reincarnation is real, you'll never know it. And there's no proof that those memories are coming from them anyway. They could be picking up something from the environment or an object somewhere in their vicinity. As a magician, this is kind of what we do. We imprint energy onto objects, creating talismans and amulets, suitable homes for our servitors. One of those paranormal shows that I liked the most was Haunted Collector, and I liked it because it showed a correlation between objects and paranormal/spirit activity. So someone experiencing the memories of another lifetime doesn't mean that they themselves lived that lifetime. There may be other possible explanations. So now we have two things that we know happen when we pass away. One, we're going to be tripping DMT. And two, our conscious selves do not return, even if the rest of our soul did somehow. And that is about all the time I have for today. It's not all that I have to say about this subject, however, so it looks like we're going to at least have a part 2. Remember to like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter @FraterXavier, and consider joining us on Patreon, where the next video is already up. If you're watching this on YouTube, that is. Exclusive early access to Mystery School videos to all patrons, no matter their support level. I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and I'll see you soon. Take care. All right, a couple videos ago we were talking about what happens to us when we pass on. Is there an afterlife? Let's do a part 2. Alright, so in part 1 we said we didn't know what happened to us when we passed on, so instead we talked about what we do know. That one, all of us are going to have a massive DMT trip when we pass away. DMT standing for dimethyltryptamine. And 2, the conscious part of ourselves, the ego, does not come back, does not survive, if reincarnation is a thing. In this part, we're going to be a little bit more speculative, and we're going to begin with those paranormal shows, which have been dying off lately because they had become so oversaturated that people just got sick of watching them. But you all remember the ghost hunter type shows where they're searching for evidence of the paranormal, EVPs, little balls of light called orbs floating around, all of which is supposed to prove to us, the audience, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there is life after death. Unfortunately, none of it can prove any such thing. Now, I myself have done spirit box sessions with some pretty crazy replies and results, which you can listen to right on this channel. I've captured orbs hovering above my altar in my temple on camera. So I know this phenomena is real, but are they actually spirits? Maybe, maybe not. Are they spirits of people that have passed on? Maybe, maybe not. From my experience with EVPs and the spirit box, the voices that come through don't always tell the truth, so you can't take their word for it. So are these really spirits, or are we tapping into the subconscious mind, or that super consciousness that binds us all together, which we tend to overlook as we buy into the grand illusion that we're somehow all separated, when we're all really connected through another consciousness. So when it comes to these paranormal research shows, there is something to it. Unfortunately, their bias always gets them to jump to the conclusion that it's a spirit or a ghost, when it just simply may not be, and may even be something that we don't even know about yet. I'm not entirely convinced, and even more than that, I'm even amused that they're out trying to collect evidence of something that they can never, ever conclusively prove. Alright, so now we get to one of the more interesting theories. If you followed me on this channel for any length of time, you may know that one of the books I recommend is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Spoilers for those who have not read it yet, but in the book, Napoleon Hill allegedly has a conversation with the devil, which isn't really the traditional Christian portrayal of the devil. It's really just a consciousness that resides in one half of all matter, as it is the negative half of the atom. Now, what happens to us when we pass on, according to this devil consciousness, is that depending on how we die, it may or may not get to eat us, which is terrifying. Have you ever seen The Evil Dead, where the Deadites say, "I'll swallow your soul"? Yeah, it's kind of like that. Although swallow or eat may be incorrect terms for it, it may be closer to absorbed. But basically you become either part of it or part of the positive consciousness. And according to the book, it doesn't matter what you've done in your life, what good works you've done, whether or not you believe in Jesus or God, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is whether or not you are afraid when you die, whether or not you're in a state of fear at the moment of death. And I find that very, very fascinating, because as we know, there are only really two emotions that all other emotions are derived from. There's love and there's fear. And according to the devil in this book, the emotions that you experience when you pass on determines which consciousness gets to absorb you. The prospect of getting absorbed by another consciousness is almost more terrifying than the prospect of a Christian hell to where you're sent for punishment. But one of the laws of magic is that everything returns to source. If we were created by a divine spark from our Creator, would we not return to the Creator as a drop of rain falls back into the ocean? And so I find this theory one of the most uniquely fascinating. And it doesn't come from just anyone. It comes from Napoleon Hill, the man who wrote Think and Grow Rich, of which I have a copy in my hand right at this moment. For those who have never read it, you should. So the fact that it comes from Napoleon Hill makes it even more interesting. And this isn't the only time I've heard of such a theory. There's another in which the evil consciousness that is represented by Napoleon Hill's devil is actually an insane cancer consciousness. And it goes on to explain exactly what cancer is. That this consciousness coerces, entices, and recruits the consciousness of other selves so that they will join it. And you would see this as a tumor that is growing. Now, where the consciousness is insane is that it sees itself as being separate from the rest of the body, from the rest of nature, and that by doing so, it has achieved immortality. And we know this would be insane because as the cancer grows, it kills off the host, which kills itself off as well. And once again, according to this theory, depending on how you die, you either get absorbed by this cancer consciousness or by the natural positive consciousness. Very similar to Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. And I heard this one first before reading that book, which made me pause all the more when I did read it. So I do like these theories, but that's all they are. Theories. It's never going to be able to be proven, but I would say that it is just as, if not more likely, than anything that the Christians are telling you. To me, it makes far more sense than the heaven or hell theory. Moving on, some people may ask, well, Frater, what about out-of-body experiences or astral travel? Wouldn't those experiences prove that we have a spirit that can move and act independently of our body? No. And the reason being is that we don't know whether or not astral travel or an out-of-body experience is dependent upon us having a body. Without a body, without a brain, without a mind, these experiences simply may not be possible. However, these are the experiences that we use just in case. And what I mean by that is we practice these experiences, lucid dreaming, astral travel, out-of-body experiences, to add our consciousness to an otherwise unconscious or subconscious state. Because as we said before, the conscious part of ourselves, the ego, doesn't seem to survive. It doesn't come back. But what if the afterlife is similar to a dream state where you don't have conscious control? So we practice adding our consciousness to these. And what I mean, these are the experiences that we use. Just the astral travel or an out-of-body experience is dependent upon us having a body. Without a body, I heard this one first before reading that book, which made me pause all the more when I did read it. So I do like these theories, but that's all they are. Theories. It's never going to be able to be proven, but I would say that it is just as, if not more likely, than anything that the Christians are telling you. To me, it makes far more sense than the heaven or hell theory. Moving on, some people may ask, well, Frater, what about out-of-body experiences or astral travel? Wouldn't those experiences prove that we have a spirit that can move and act independently of our body? No. And the reason being is that we don't know whether or not astral travel or an out-of-body experience is dependent upon us having a body. Without a body, without a brain, without a mind, these experiences simply may not be possible. However, these are the experiences that we use just in case. And what I mean by that is we practice these experiences, lucid dreaming, astral travel, out-of-body experiences, to add our consciousness to an otherwise unconscious or subconscious state. Because as we said before, the conscious part of ourselves, the ego, doesn't seem to survive. It doesn't come back. But what if the afterlife is similar to a dream state where you don't have conscious control? So we practice adding our consciousness to these subconscious dreamlike states so that we can gain control. And that's really the best that we can do. Also, it does help us in our magical practice, and so I do recommend picking up the practice of lucid dreaming or astral travel, if you have not already done so that you can experience adding your conscious awareness to an otherwise unconscious state. And that will about do it for today. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, or subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at FraterXavier, or consider joining us on Patreon, where patrons have early access to Mystery School videos before they're available on YouTube. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Hey guys, guess what? Come check this out. Check it out. Let's check it out. What is in here? Oh my goodness. Here.
What is it?
Look. Smartwatch.
Yes.
Smartwatch. I got one for you. I got one for you.
Thank you.
And for you.
Smartwatches.
Cool. Smartwatch.
When I was born in the colony of Atlantis, I remember everything.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what the fuck is up? It is the Ceremonial Witch, who had 35 subscribers but just lost one. Must be all this curse shit I'm talking about. Someone probably didn't like it. It's all good. I get it. I totally get it. When I was starting my path, if any of the people I was listening to or watching talked about cursing people or stuff that I considered to be baneful. Actually, for a while, I thought black magic was actually a bad thing. So yeah, for a while, if people were talking about that stuff, I wouldn't watch them anymore, and I never unsubscribed. Well, I probably did actually. I probably have. So you know, it is what it is. Like I said before, I've even subscribed to people that there's this one Christian dude who said he was doing a lot of etymology shit. And his etymology shit, like the research he did up on the word and how he put stuff together, you know, he was trying to force feed it to you in a way, like telling you this is how it is at times. But for the most part, his research was good. You know, you just had to not take on his point of view at the same time. So, but I even subscribed to him. But then he literally said in the one video, but for all you witches out there that are coming for me, I will send an angel of death at you, or the angel of fucking, I don't know, something to that effect, angel of death to take my fucking soul, best believe that, I will protect mine, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, I was just loving this guy. But because of the fact that he did all that good research, I still subscribe to him. Even though I'm not a big fan of anybody saying they want to kill witches. And I mean, he wasn't a Christian per se. I think he was more some kind of Jewish and or Adventist or whatever, ones that believe the Sabbath is Saturday, believe in the Old Testament more than the New Testament, but still kind of believe in Jesus because he was talking about Jesus. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. Point is, if people feel they need to unsubscribe from me, that's fine. I don't mind. It's not a big deal. It's not about subscribers. It's not about views. It's about, well, the beginning when I did my first podcast, I said I just want to be a voice out there for other people to know that magic is real. And on top of that, I feel there is I need to present things in a certain way. What I mean by that is simply I need to make it very clear that magic isn't just using your mind, subconscious, this new age, new way of thinking, okay, isn't just for good. And I'm not saying it's to be used for evil. I'm saying it can and will be used for evil. And if you aren't aware of it, or know it, or actively guard or put anything up to protect yourself while you're changing your programming, then you can cause harm to other people without even knowing it. And if you believe in karma, well, then your own beliefs will cause you karma. Because I don't think, now I don't know, and I can't tell you for sure, But I don't think it's as simple as, you know, everything goes around, comes around. So there's this law of karma that states that if you do something bad's going to happen to you. And that doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, I watched a video from Thunder Wizard, and it was very good. I forget which one it was, but he was explaining just that the law of karma can't be a thing. Like, there is a law of karma to a certain degree, in the sense that if you send out bad, you'll get bad. If you send out good, you'll get good. I believe in that because I've used it. I've done it. I've given money and I've received money. I've given people that I've hated, my enemies, I wished them prosperity and I've forgiven them. And then because of it, I've gotten good stuff in return, and I've done good, I've done well, I've reaped the rewards after doing said things. So I know there is this circuitry that what goes around comes around. But I think if you have the belief within you, because we create a reality, that I believe. We create what happens to us, that I believe, that I know. But if you've created a belief and reinforced it over and over again and said it was real over and over again and lived it and listened to people saying it's real over and over and over again, then you've created your own circumstance where this karma is real. Now, this is going to be a little complicated to understand, but maybe try to wrap your head around it with me, okay? What I'm saying here is that we can create whatever we want. And belief systems and the way life works is the same. It follows those same laws. Meaning, you can create this rule that if you do bad things by your own judgment, you dictate what's good and what's bad. You have this moral compass within you. And anytime you pass that bad line, whenever you cross over that bad line, then something bad has to happen to you. And you've created that circumstance. So your mind is going to create bad circumstances to happen to you every time you do something bad. This way, you stop doing bad things. You've created that own circumstance within your mind. You have that belief system. Because if you think about good and bad, now there are things that are baneful. You know, if you're just going around killing children for no fucking reason, well, that's just to be bad. That's just, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain. All right, so I don't know where I left off, where I was going with that shit, but I'm just gonna keep trying to explain it. This nice little hatchet I got today. It's fucking sick, yo. Anyways, so where was I going with that? Okay, I'm trying to explain karma as the law of karma isn't more important than the law that you create your own reality. But the law that everything that you create, anything you put out, anything you do, anything you say, whether it's energetically or in the physical, or because I think you can think thoughts. I think Ralph Smart said if you're thinking about negative thoughts, thinking about all the ways the day can go wrong, then you're going to cause that to happen, and that's inaccurate. And I don't say that often. I don't ever like to say Ralph Smart's inaccurate. And maybe from his point of view, it's accurate. Maybe he truly thinks that if you simply just think a bad thought, then that's going to manifest. But that's not accurate in as far as I know. Fuck, I don't know what's happened there. I was trying to find my lighter. As far as I can tell, that's not accurate. You can have negative thoughts and not act on them. Can you have negative thoughts and put emotion to it and they don't manifest? Well, that's when it starts getting more complicated. And then if you add action into that, if you put forth action such as ritual, such as assidual, such as going out there and going to the guy who's trying to get your wife to sleep with him's house and try to get him to fight you, and he won't come out, and you start screaming and fucking putting all that hate emotion into these words and thoughts and all that you have, then yeah, you're gonna create a thought form that's gonna fucking make him not want to leave his house and be scared to go out every time because he thinks you're gonna run into him. He's gonna think that you decided to hide down the road, and really it's gonna be a thought form that you created and he created, because at the same time as you're creating a thought form that you're gonna kill this motherfucker the next time he steps out of his house, he created a thought form with using the fear emotion into the thoughts that you are not gonna give this up, that you are not gonna stop until he is dead or fights you. So therefore, yeah, that's how these negative emotions, the negative thoughts can fuck with you. But if you simply just have a negative thought, because I said a long time ago, there's an old stoic practice that you do, and it's a negative meditation. Whereas the point of the meditation is to, when you wake up, you think of all the fucking ways your day can go shitty. And then from there, you think of all the resolutions that can happen. So it's not just thinking of negative thoughts and then just hoping they don't happen. You're thinking of negative thoughts and then you're giving it resolutions. And this way, if these things manifest throughout your day or happen, then you already have the resolutions and you don't have to worry about it. And that's a Stoic thing. I'm coming from Marcus Aurelius, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so my bad. But a few of Ralph's videos, he actually quotes Marcus, the Emperor of Rome. But the point is, you can have a negative thought and not act on it. But that's the point of banish, reject, deny. If you get negative thoughts happening often to you, what you need to do is, I reject that thought. And you can leave it at that, or you can do the extra step that I do is, and I accept that the opposite is going to play out. Now don't say that, but state the opposite happening. So I reject the thought that Corey LeBlanc is going to kick my ass, and I accept that I'm never going to talk to his wife again, so he'll get over it, and he won't kick my ass. I will be harm-free, so what it be. Obviously, don't use the won'ts in any negative speech, because subconscious mind doesn't understand that. But at that level, you're just basically, well, anyways, I won't get into that. Point is, negative thoughts by themselves can't manifest. If you add the energy and motion, the emotion into it, then they have a better chance. And that's, to me, how you start and accidentally maybe create thought forms. But you also need some kind of action in there as well, meaning you visualize yourself going there, kicking his ass, you do a ritual, something to that. Anyway, so that's not to diss Ralph, because I love Ralph. Ralph's awesome. I watch his newest episode every single day when they come out. Now, when all this happened last week, exactly a week from today, I was not watching anything on YouTube, not doing anything, just kind of soaking and cursing that motherfucker. And when I say cursing, I mean in my mind, mentally cursing him. See, if whoever dropped me as a subscriber dropped me because they think I'm physically cursing him, well, no. See, there's a difference between cursing someone. See, to me, hexing somebody is the act of doing it on purpose. Now, if you really look up the word hex is just the hexagram. It comes from Saturn. It's the reason the Jews wear the black cube on their head. Black is for Saturn. Hexagram is for the fucking cube that's got the two, you know, a cube has 2 squares on top and 4 on the side. That's all it is. So the hexagram comes from Saturn, and that slowly, just like how hoodoo was a practice, and you used to make a hoodoo doll, it would be yourself, and you would put it on your altar, and you would make this doll get thinner, maybe you would make it get richer, you would make it get stronger, you make it better looking, whatever the case is. You would do that for yourself. That was sympathetic magic, and whatever you did to that doll happened to you. That's a hoodoo practice, as far as I can remember, and it might even be something else, but I think it's hoodoo. Anyways, well then Hollywood takes that and perverts it and turns it into voodoo, and voodoo is cursing your enemy. So same concept, which you can do either way it works. If it works the one way, it works the other way. That's how this shit works. Meaning, if you can cause something to happen to you, right, it's easier to affect yourself, no question. So cursing other people is hard. Cursing yourself is easy. We curse ourselves all the time. And that brings me back to what I was talking about, karma. The law of karma is the law of karma, because if you say, oh, I think my bitch is dying. Anyways, if you say you're never going to be rich, you're never going to lose weight, you're always going to be fat, you're always going to be lonely, you're never going to quit doing dope, well then you are putting into manifestation what you're saying. You know what I mean? You can say it's a law of karma, it's bullshit, I never fucking fucked anybody over, what happens, it's a shitty life. Well, it's not that. It's just because you said you just had a shitty life, so you're gonna have a shitty life. But that's what I mean by cursing. I never cursed him per se. I wanted to hex him, I wanted to send him some shit. And then I didn't even do that much. I ended up fucking making a fucking thought form to fucking fuck with him. And that thought form is to fuck him until he learns his lesson. Once he learns his lesson, this is not the thought form's job. The thought form has to return to me. So I was worried that because it's a thought form with a negative intent or a maleficent intent, that it might return to me and affect me maleficently. I don't think that's how it works, because thinking the thought form is completely different, and I decide when. So if I start noticing, oh shit, my thought form's here, it's fucking with me, I got the kill code, I can kill anytime. I create the programming for a thought form, so I can do whatever I want with this thought form. But I also had it, the thought form's job is to all the cursing energy I sent him, not intentionally, just because I was upset and putting a lot of emotion, a lot of visualization, and all that into how much I hated this fucker for trying to hit on my fucking wife when he knew she was married. And then I was even mad at him for simply, you know, telling her he'd be with her, yet he only wanted to sleep with her and not even wanted to be with her. Because like I said, I was willing to let my wife go, you know? I was willing to set her free, and if this is something you gotta pursue, go pursue it, and then I'll be waiting for you when you're done and you come back. That's how sure I was that this guy was just fucking trying to fuck her and never talk to her ever again. And you know, his actions basically proved that. So I was also upset about that. So I put a lot of emotion and bad thoughts out there sent to him. And this is what I know the law is. This is the law. Now, how do you state this law? I don't know. Some people call it the law of attraction. What you send out comes back to you. So if you send out good thoughts, it'll come back to you. If you send out the thought that you're rich, it'll come back to you. That's what people say the law of attraction is. So this is the law. This is the law of magic, if you will. This is what I'm trying to teach. This is what Dolores Cannon said is the one lesson we need to learn. It's what, if you want to learn how to create your reality, this is the concept you need to understand. Now, the 7 Hermetic principles are how you do that successfully. They're the 7 guidelines you need to do to make sure you manifest what you need. But basically, if you take a thought of you becoming wealthy, and then you put the emotion of how it would feel to be wealthy, if you get that combination correct, and then you use ritual, assidual, candle magic, whatever, make a thought form, whatever one of those actions. So you got the fucking air, the fire, and the water, and it will manifest them to the earthly plane. That is magic in a fucking nutshell. It's also the combination that people don't realize they're doing, because I know what I'm doing. I know what people are doing, yet when that day happened, I could not control myself. I was so upset, so hurt, so brokenhearted that I just flew all that shit out there. It just went. I couldn't help it. So, being a responsible person, I didn't care if it fucked him up. I wanted to fuck him up. But I don't want it to come back to me and infect anybody in my house. So my secondary job of my thought form is before that comes back, you fuck him up, you scare him, you do whatever it needs to be done to make sure he never does this to another man's wife. Once you accomplish that, you stick around until my cursing energy, I think I wrote hexing energy as well, but you stick around until that's ready to come back. You transform that into, thank you, Mr. Owie. You send it, you take it, sorry, I just got a thing from Google, ceremonial. Let's see what this says. Can I get on there? Ceremonial witchcraft. Oh shit. But it's for my wife actually. Anyways, it's for a website that we were making for our little knickknacks and shit. We're gonna make our fucking Sandy and Corey's kick-ass crafts or something to that effect. But I'm gonna make pentagrams and altars and altar tools and all that shit. It's gonna be live shortly there. I just got the confirmation from Google, so the mail's working fast again. But anyways, fuck. So all that shit I shot at him, when that's ready to come back to me, I think I wrote cursing and hexing energy back, but hexing would be the wrong word. To me, that's the difference. When you curse somebody, it's because you're cursing them. It's using curse words. It's talking ill about somebody with emotion into it and potentially enough passion or desire to actually let that manifest. E.A. Coedding puts it pretty good when he talks about cursing. He says people were asking him how come their curses haven't manifested, and he says for all magic, if the thing you're trying to manifest, if it's and we could debate if desire is the right word, but passion, desire, action, fire, that's all Mars energy. That's the second thing you need, right? You need your thoughts, air, you need the passion, the desire, the action, fire, you need that from Mars. But Mars is also a baneful fucking planet too, so watch out. So if you think magic can't be done banefully, or you can't curse people, you can't do shit like that, you're wrong. Because Mars is one of the ingredients. Fire is one of the ingredients. And fire sometimes can't be controlled. But anyway, so Egg Wedding says, if you have the desire, if you truly want, if you start magic and you see a bunch of spells and shit, that, okay, that would be cool. So that's what I'm going to try out, just to see if the shit's real first or not. You don't really care. You're not really thinking about it. So, you know, you'll spend an hour or two a day looking up some stuff, maybe an hour doing your ritual or your little spell work. And then for the rest of the day, you're hanging out with your family, you're reading, you're doing shit with your wife, you're not thinking about whatever, which is a good way. But if you don't truly have the desire for this to happen, it won't manifest. And you can say, well, you're supposed to set it and forget it. You're supposed to throw it and let it go. Throw it and let it go. And that's true. But the point is, when you throw it, if you don't have enough emotion, emotion is the wrong word. The emotion would be how you feel when you receive the thing. But if you don't actually, how do you put that? This is the main, so emotion is what most people think is missing from their thing. They think they have to really act as if it's there and be grateful, and that's true. But passion and emotion are two different things. Desire and emotion are two different things. Fire, lust and sex, lust and love are two different things, although they mimic the same thing. That's kind of how this passion and emotion can be. So you have to actually want the thing so bad, or actually need this thing to happen. And if you don't really need this to happen in your life, well, then how would you get something to happen? Well, then you need to be so fucking tired in your ritual because you were so flamboyant. You told the gods how fucking grateful you were, that you fucking cursed this motherfucker so fucking bad, and you put everything into there. You're vivid, your visualizations are turned right up, everything is so clear, and your hatred is so pronounced for this motherfucker that it's like, holy fuck, yeah, no, this is something that needs to happen for him. Okay, let him have it. You know, that's kind of what you need for all magic, not just what I'm talking about cursing. So if you need money, okay, you need the emotion. You need to be thankful, grateful, so happy, and you need to show that emotion with tears, with happy, with smiles, and jumping up and down in joy. But it's also, the other thing that's missing from that is the need, the emotion you feel is like what happens after you get it. But the moment you feel something, or the moment something happens, it's kind of like the dopamine release whenever you're steady going for something, when you're trying to make something happen in your life, a goal that you're going for. When you start seeing that being achieved, you're going to feel those emotions. That's the dopamine release. But the action you're putting towards that makes you feel a type of way, and it's not quite an emotion. I'm having trouble explaining this. Now, I know a great video where Frederick Xavier explains this so perfectly, and it's I can't remember which one, but if I think of it, I'll put it after this, and I'll let him explain it to you a little bit better, a little small clip from it. But if you don't have that desire for this thing to happen, if you can't show the gods that this thing is one of the most important things to you, it's all you think about during your ritual, and you're putting all your thoughts into that. Because if you're doing your ritual and you're kind of half thinking about someone, thinking about you in the next room, hearing something or whatever, then yeah, you don't have enough desire there. You're not using that male Mars energy in the right way to impress the female mind. That's the earth. You gotta think about it that way. If you want something to manifest into the earthly realm, you gotta use the mental, your thoughts, added with your fire, your desire, and your emotions, and that combination will bring it into the earthly plane. So, but what's up, my honey?
I'm going to get a toy.
Okay, where is she, in the pool? Okay, I'll come watch her anyways. All right, so, but the point of all this is to say is that is a combination that creates a reality. That is how all this shit works for any kind of manifestation, any kind of anything. So when you're a kid and you're at Bible school, a regular school, and you're learning shit, and they're inputting all this Bible, Satan is real and God is real, and the commandments are what you got to go by, and if you do bad things happen to you, and ultimately if you don't ask for forgiveness you go to hell. Well, if that gets put in your head hard enough, It's not, those beliefs that are put in your head aren't what karma or the law of karma is, or why you receive those bad things after you do those bad things. Just because someone told you that bad things happen after you do bad things that's not why those bad things will happen to you. The reason those things will happen to you is because your mind can create anything. Therefore, what your mind did is your mind created a software. Let's go with that route, okay? Your mind's the operating system. It created an app, some software that says, okay, when I do good, I'll get more good things. When I do bad, I'll get more bad things. And now you are fucked. Once that got reinforced and it's in you, you are fucked. And that's one of the hardest things to get rid of. And this is why the depolarization training is the best, because honestly, did I get rid of that fucking programming? Probably not. I've tried. Probably not. But the way to sidestep it is to be depolarized. Because when you're depolarized, what's good and what's bad is no longer the guidelines. So all this depends on your inner compass. So you created an app and software that says when you do good, you get good things. When you do bad, you get bad things. But it's based on your inner compass for the good and the bad things to manifest. If those good and bad things do not manifest, those good and bad things won't manifest. How am I gonna put that? For you to do something good, it has to be according to your moral compass. So if the line is, okay, doing bad things, I'm allowed to think about another man's wife, but I can't cheat on my wife. So if I think about another man's wife when I'm fucking my wife, not so bad. No karma. But if I fuck that man's wife, that's bad. I get karma. Now let's take the other man. If in his mind, let's say his wife says, no, thinking about another girl is just as bad, and says that 21 days in a row, and that gets in his head. He thinks about another man's wife when he's fucking her. All of a sudden, he's gonna have bad things happen to him. And it's not because, and these are two men within the same block, maybe they live beside each other, went to the same school, went to the same thing, but they both have different karmic rules. Why? Because that's how it's been put in your head. And it's the one thing about the spiritual community that I don't like. Once I realized that you can have any belief you want, and if you strictly take the karma law out of your mind, then you no longer have it. However, it's a hard thing because it's one of the things that is reinforced almost on every spiritual platform, community, wherever. And that tells me that they want us to follow that rule still. That people don't mind us doing magic as long as we think bad things will happen to us if we do bad things. Therefore, it'll keep us away from doing bad things like taking down the government and taking down the monetary system and all this shit. Because we're going to think that's bad ultimately. And other people are going to think it's bad. And that's why they want people polarized against us. So there's always that good and evil polarity. So there's always good and evil. But if everybody was depolarized a little bit, not completely, then we wouldn't have such an evil polarity, good and evil scheme. Because those two guys have both two different, very similar good and evil concepts and thoughts, and what the moral compass is very similar, except one's line for the bad is just thinking about sleeping, thinking thoughts of like picturing the other man's wife, fucking her while you're actually fucking your wife. To him, that one man, that is evil. To the other man, that's okay as long as you don't actually cheat. That's not cheating yet. And who's the judge? Well, we're all our own judge. We are all our own moral compass. Therefore, if we all have the same moral compass, well then we could talk. But we don't all have the same moral compass. Some people think what I do is evil. Some people think what I do is not even evil enough yet. Some people think I'm doing a Christian religion shit, and people in the Christian religion think I'm doing satanic worship. And once again, who's right, who's wrong? Everybody's fucking wrong if you ask me. It's your moral compass. Don't allow your moral compass to fuck over your manifestation. Because that's one thing I don't know if anybody talks about it, but I truly believe that if you're doing all these good acts to try to get good to happen, right? You're giving people money, you're treating people nice, whatever. Well, if you start doing these little things that in your mind, they're fucking bad, then it's gonna fuck up your moral compass. It's gonna fuck up you manifesting things, because it's gonna fucking go against, you know, all these good deeds you did, but then you did 3 other bad good deeds. So you did 3 good, you did 3 bad. Well, it's just gonna even itself out, and you'll be like, why hasn't it manifested yet? You know, and it's simply that. You have the ability to create whatever the fuck you want, and that includes the reinforced limiting belief that karma is a law. Now, what goes out comes back to you. That is a law. But it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. And it doesn't speculate that if you put out something good's gonna come. You can put out something good and get something bad come back to you. You can put out something bad and get something good to you. That's what I just did. I put out bad energy to this motherfucker, and I made something to transform it into good energy. And when my guy comes back to affect me or do whatever, I kill him off. And that's how I beat the law of karma. And I think everybody should try to beat the law of karma. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, was how karma is a self-imposed limiting fucking belief. And if you don't believe me, that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. Do your own research. But I'm telling you, you get deeper in the curriculum and you start seeing more and more how magic works. And this law of karma, like even Frederick Xavier says it, the Western way of law of karma is what goes around comes around. He's like, and that's a very fucking cookie cutter approach, or fucking, you know, kids version of karma. It's way more complicated than that, and it's more like a circuit. Energy is just energy. You can send out bad energy and get good energy back. You can send out good energy, get bad energy back. That good or bad is all on the person sending it. And if I send somebody, let's say bad energy, but that person's Birch and he's got a transformation sensor, well, he's just simply going to say thank you, and I just gave him money. It doesn't matter. That's why I said if anybody's hating on me, it doesn't matter. I have a transformation sigil just to change that energy into whatever the fuck I want. It doesn't matter. So there goes law of karma. The only law of there is this law of magic. This what people think the law of attraction is. What you send out comes back to you. And that's true. But you gotta think about it in every part of your fucking life. And you gotta use the 7 hermetic principles for it to work. All is mental. That's basically what we're talking about. All starts in the mind. All happens in the mind of God, but all starts in your mind. Something that you are benefiting from. My car, for example, started in someone else's mind. Therefore, if you want to affect this car, either have to go in that motherfucker's mind, or I have to start with my mind to affect this car. Point is, if all is in the mind, then all can be changed and affected at the level of the mind. And then, you know, you go from there, you go, what, I don't know, what's polarity next, if it's law of rhythm, or if it's law of vibration. No, law of correspondences. As above, so below, as within, so without. As the mind, so the soul. No, as the spirit, so the soul, something to that effect. And that simply stated that everything corresponds to everything. What's up in the air is on the ground. What's in the air is in the water. What's in the fire is in the earth, and vice versa. What's inside of me is outside of me. What controls the inside of me controls the outside of me. It's all the same. All these opposites are not opposites. That's polarity, but anyways. Point is, you use these things to make sure your magic's going to work. If you are violating these rules, then your magic's not going to work. But the law of karma is not in these rules. There is no law stating if you do bad things are going to happen to you. Do you know why? Because to the one who created us, to whoever created us, whatever, the gods, the goddesses, all there is, Mother Nature, whoever, there is no good, there is no bad. That's simply our perception, our point of view. We get to have our own point of view of what's good and what's bad. And this can work to your benefit. If you want some good stuff, you gotta send out good and good will come to you. If you want bad stuff, you gotta send out bad, bad will come to you. Or you can use the transformation sigil to control that yourself and stop all bad energy coming to you. You guys want me to go in the pool? I'm ready to go now. Anyways, I think that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.
One thing that really clarified it for me personally, mind. The subconscious mind will then absorb male force has supplied. And you can see how physical sex totally adheres to the law of gender. This should all make perfect sense so far because you're already familiar with all the aspects of procreation on this physical level. Now we're going to take this concept and principle and apply it to your magic, or more specifically, the mind. The male energy is that fiery dynamic force that we refer to in magic as the will, which is part and parcel to the conscious mind. Whereas the feminine energy resides within the subconscious mind. When your will successfully penetrates and impresses upon the subconscious mind will then absorb and assimilate those blueprints given by the will, and then turn and give birth to the results of your magic in perfect synchronization within your reality. This is why the will is so important in magic, because just sitting there visualizing and meditating in a passive, dreamlike state isn't going to do much, because that's using a feminine energy. The male will is fiery, dynamic, passionate, and often exaggerating in its capabilities in order to make an impression. And this is the sole purpose of ritual magic. All the props, the robes, the garb, the mantras, the sigils, everything is there for one purpose and one purpose only, to make an impression upon the subconscious mind. The subconscious then takes that, processes it, and then gives birth to or manifests the results. It will first try to manifest the results internally, and if it can't do that, it will manifest them externally into your reality with synchronicity. And this happens whether you're aware of it or not, and why people are doing magic whether they're aware of it or not. One thing that really clarified it for me personally was one day I had a craving for McDonald's. Now consciously, I can't stand McDonald's. And so I sat there wondering why I had this craving for McDonald's. It didn't make any sense. I can't stand McDonald's, yet I want McDonald's. And I mentioned it to my girlfriend that I'm having this craving despite knowing that I really don't like it. And she said, "Well, did you see the McDonald's bag I left on the table?" No, I did not. At least not consciously. See, she had McDonald's the night before when I was sleeping and left the bag on the table. And as I'm passing through the room the next day, I didn't see it consciously, but my subconscious picked up on it, processed that corporate sigil logo, and manifested it as an internal craving for McDonald's. And this is why I said you really got to guard the gates of your mind. And that if you're not controlling your magic, it will be controlled for you. And for those of you that are going to run out later and get McDonald's, I'm sorry. Now see, the subconscious mind sees all and knows all. And this is why it picked up on it when my conscious mind did not. Almost sounds like the all-seeing eye, doesn't it? Oh, dude, you're blowing my mind. And yeah, well, magic is sex of the mind. And it's through this principle that NLP works, that people are being bombarded with subliminal messaging on a constant basis. See? And it was after the McDonald's episode that I won't even leave a newspaper with negative articles or headlines face up to where my subconscious can pick up on that. See? I don't want that to be processed by my subconscious and then manifest it somehow in my life. And you think about this as you're scrolling through the news feed on Facebook and just scrolling down without reading anything. Well, your subconscious mind is picking all of that up. And if you want to use this principle to your advantage, you might want to write out positive messages and hide them around the house. Or have your significant other do it, so that your conscious mind isn't really seeing them, but your subconscious is picking it up and processing it and then manifesting it. And we'll expand upon that in the next lesson. But the subconscious mind truly is the link to what we refer to as the divine. It is the portal to the other realms, and it is the 0 point, ones and zeros in a binary system, male and female. It's the 0 point for all magic. And yes, I am aware that that view is debated among practicing magicians, but just know that I will continue to make my case and support my position on this as we move along in the lessons. And before the next lesson, I have an assignment for you. It's the first mandatory assignment. I need you to watch a video by Bob Proctor. Now, he's the guy that was in the movie The Secret. Now, he may not call himself a Hermetic magician, but all he teaches are the Hermetic principles. And he's going to explain the subconscious mind for you real well. And in the next lesson, we're going to take his model and
All right, so I guess I thought I was done, but I just want to add a few things. I'm pretty sure you guys heard me during the recording talking while I was paused, but just in case, I'll probably repeat it again after. I'm going to the store to get something for a taco salad, not for me because I don't eat meat, anything like that. But anyways, so yeah, the point of having I go naked as a good sign to my subconscious, but wearing robes and all that shit during ritual magic and all the props and everything, the flair, and the flair is important. The more flamboyant and energy you can exert within your ritual, the more energy you're putting into fueling that thought. It's why you need to. That's where this comes in. This is why ritual magic can be the shortcut to make things happen. Instead of having to go out there and try to find a job and go and put out a bunch of resumes, you can simply, put out your resumes, one day, do a fucking ritual, put a whole bunch of emotion and action and flamboyancy and props and, make a real big impression on your subconscious mind. And then, all of them, one of them, the most important one, the one you're meant to have, it's gonna call you and you're gonna get the fucking job. So keep that in mind. But there's something about faith, I think, that reacts to this now. It's a Taparith video. It's about the Sephiroth of Taparith. But yeah, I'm gonna play that right now too, just so you guys can hear that as well.
Okay, so things have been quite busy for me lately, and I only see them getting more so over the next month. So I will put out videos as I can fit them in. I have given quite a bit of information already for you to practice if you so choose. However, I do need to give this final component on how to manifest your magic, which is one of, if not the most important component. Because people can use just this and will be able to manifest things into their life. And I'm talking about strength, so let's take a look at the strength card, number 8. Just as in the magician card, we see that she has the infinity symbol over her head, representing the influence of the divine with which she is able to subdue the mighty lion. On the tree of life, the path of strength connects the Sephiroths of Hest and Gabora, or the spheres of Jupiter and Mars. Now, the thing to understand about the Sephiroths and the Tree of Life is that you can study it your entire life, and people do, and still come up with more correspondences and meanings to things, because there's so much embedded into them. It's like astrology. The planets themselves don't represent just one thing. They represent and rule over a multitude of things and correspondences. And these are things you need to write down and keep track of as you come across them, by keeping your own intuitive catalog. The books are good for starters, but you're going to come across things more and more on your own through your own intuitive spirit. So when most people think of the Sephiroth, Hest, the sphere of Jupiter. They think of benevolence and mercy. It's on the pillar of mercy. Courtrooms, higher law, all these correspondences. But we want to focus on the correspondence directly related to manifestation. And that correspondence is faith. And this is one instance of where a belief in the divine is going to be to your advantage. Although it's not required, because you could simply have a belief in magic or any higher forces at work. Doesn't really matter, because belief is not faith. Belief backs up the faith, but belief itself is not faith. To believe is not to know. It's like a best guess. Faith is entirely something different, and it's very misunderstood. There are a lot of people who don't have faith in their own beliefs. Now, you may have read a book or two on magic where they talk about performing things in the moment as if it's already happened to you, and this is to get you in the practice of faith. Faith is certainty, the purpose of which is to set it and forget it. And we already talked about the importance of getting the conscious mind out of the way, and faith will allow you to be able to do that. If you already know and have certainty of the outcome, then there's really no reason to dwell on or think about it, is there? It is as it is. Do not underestimate the power of faith. It is the single most important component you can put into your magic, aside from making an impression upon the subconscious. Because Sephiroth number 4 is as high as you're going to be able to get without crossing the abyss. It is the highest law. This is why law is associated with Sephiroth 4, with Hest, with Jupiter. Jupiter rules religion, as well as faith itself. It is the greater benefit in astrology. Those who employ faith correctly can manifest many things, because starting at Sephiroth number 4, it will eventually trickle down all the way into Malkuth and manifest. They can start with an idea in Kether, a need for something. They'll pray for that need, which is directing their will to the subconscious. So they've employed Sephiroths 1, 2, and 3, and then they have the faith to back that up, and the rest of it just trickles down and manifests. So the higher laws always trump the lower laws. So you need to begin to practice faith, which sounds easy, but it's actually quite difficult to get into a habit of setting it and forgetting it, to have absolute certainty in these forces that you cannot see. Which is why atheists and people of non-belief will have a far more difficult time with faith. I mean, just in general. And we had talked about how the conscious mind always wants to project onto other things. Those with belief are able to do just that, to allow for the doors of faith to be opened. Whereas those who have difficulty believing in anything will have nothing to project onto. Therefore, it's harder for faith to be established. Okay? So now we need to move on to Sephiroth number 5. And this in relation to manifestation. The Sephiroth of Gabura, Mars. This is action. We need to back up our faith with action. Movement of some kind. Now, previously, when we talked about how the books say you have to actually leave the house to go out and get the opportunities to manifest your magic, that you're not going to be able to just manifest something in your yard. And I said that that was BS, because I have manifested things in my yard. Well, it all depends on how successfully you employ the higher laws. Sephiroths 1 through 4 trump number 5. So it depends on how strong your faith is. It depends on how successfully you've made your impression upon the subconscious mind. as to whether you can get that to happen. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. If you just stay at home, well, you've cut a lot of your access points out. It'd be like the difference of shopping for something online and having to wait for it to be shipped to you, as opposed to just going to the store and picking it up. In which case, shopping online, you're going to have to wait a lot longer. So we want to back up our faith with action. They don't have to be big actions. They can be as big or as small as you like them to be, as long as you feel it's moving you towards your goal. Obviously, the bigger the action, the more movement, but they don't have to be big actions. Plan on doing at least 5 actions, 5 for the Sephiroth of Geburah. Now, these should be planned out ahead of time so that you can just go ahead and do them and keep the conscious mind out of the way as much as possible. Now, this isn't to say that opportunities won't be presented to you along the way through synchronicity. And obviously, when that happens, you're going to want to seize upon those opportunities. But that may not happen right away, so you're going to want to have your 5 steps of action planned out ahead of time. The combination of faith and action cannot be beaten, for it is the path of strength. And there really is no need for ritual magic to be able to employ this. You see people all the time have confidence in themselves or their abilities, and they back up what they want with action. They go out and make it happen. They're utilizing the path of strength. 4 plus 5 equals 9. Eventually, their faith and action will trickle down into Yesod and then manifest. Faith and action also leads directly into what we covered last lesson with force and form. Okay? Now, the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, the now of the keyword LVX. Well, here's your X, and you can see how they cross Taparith into Netzach and Had. And Taparith is almost an entire video in of itself, but to try to simplify it real quick, it's your higher ideas, your higher self, it's what you have in your heart. So you want to make sure that everything coincides and complements the desires of your heart. Now, this X, it really isn't like a straight across X. It's more like this. It's more like 2 sideways V's. Now, just looking at the colors will tell you this. Okay? Blue of Hest and the yellow of Taparith equal the green of Netzach. And on the other side, the red of Geburah and the yellow of Taparith equal the orange of Had. Now, you can use, as I said before, that Marzarian anger and aggression as your emotional force. You can bring Geburah through Taparith into Netzach if you wish. But I'm always reminded of Ghostbusters, don't cross the streams. Because more of the same is going to be returned to you if you do that. More anger and aggression. It's going to be accompanied with something. And I told you that sometimes it's just not worth it.
You're this close to sending your idea out into the world. Create something.
Now, you may be wondering why, if everything has to start at the top of the tree and work its way down into Malkuth, why faith and action, part of X, would be last in LVX. The answer being it is and it is not at the same time. Because just doing a ritual in of itself is a step of action, and you have to have at least a little bit of faith in it. Otherwise, why are you doing it in the first place? It wouldn't make any sense. But it's placed last because it has to be an ongoing thing. You have to have more steps of action included, and your faith has to be ongoing. You have to set it and forget it, and keep that continuing certainty. They start higher up in the tree, they take a little bit longer to get to the bottom. You just got to keep it going. So to quickly recap before I go here, we want to impress our will upon the subconscious mind. We want to have faith. We want to back that up with action. We want to make sure it coincides with our true higher ideals and what's in our heart. And then we want to focus our force and our form so that our magic can manifest in Malkuth, in the kingdom, in the physical world. I hope you found this lesson helpful and insightful.
All right, so just to finish up here real quick, so I was wrong. It's not Taparith, it's S that Jupiter is of. Sorry, I got it mixed up. I don't do path working all that much. I studied it so I can understand it and know how to, because to me, path working is a longer explanation for, not necessarily, but it's like using planetary energies to explain how to manifest things, how your body works, how you can bring stuff into the kingdom, basically. But you can use the hermetic principles as well, kind of like the chakra system versus the tree of life, I guess, in a, another cookie cutter, vague way. But when he said about Taparith being your heart's desire has to match what you want for your manifestation, that's what I was trying to get at with the EA coeting part. And then why I ended up saying that I needed Freya or Xavier to explain it, and I put them on here to explain it to you. But basically, for things to go to depart to Parith and to trickle down into Gabora, or however he stated that, if your heart's desire doesn't match what you're trying to do. So right now, for me to, and I'm going to use the curse again. I know people don't like me talking about curses and shit like that, but whatever, it's a great example. So my heart's desire, if in my heart I don't have enough anger, negativity, hate, and malice for this God, let's say I truly believe in people and love people, and then my shit's not going to work. I can feel my thought form all I want, but it's really not going to do what it's told. It may go there, but it won't. I'm not going to have enough energy, enough power. Things are going to, it might not even take off. I don't know what will happen. So that's why during my ritual, I have to prove how much I did hate this person to get this to match. So to make my heart desire that way, at least at that moment, basically. So, and then you let it go. Complete faith. So faith is a little bit different than the Takara thing I was talking about. But basically, in your heart's desire, if you're saying you want to manifest money, you want to manifest money, you want to manifest money, but in your heart there's something else going on. It's really not about manifesting money. Maybe it's about you hate your job right now and you want time at home to think about your passion. Well, then you might have trouble manifesting money, because the thing you should be manifesting first is what's deep down in your heart's desire. That should be the first thing you should be taking care of. So anyways, I hope that's inclusive. I hope that helps. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it and have a great fucking day. All right, what's up, everybody? You know who I am. Same guy, always doing the same videos from the same fucking car. Yeah. Well, let's switch it up today. How about this? Oh shit! You got the sky up in this bitch with my beautiful big tree behind me. Yeah, who needs to go in nature when you have a big fucking tree in your yard that you're in nature every day with? Holy fuck, my hair's all fucking weird looking. Shit. All right, I'll fix that up. Yeah, see, that's my big tree. I sit on that motherfucker every day. Not every day, that's not true, but most days. Yeah, a few trees. That's my backyard. That's my front yard tree right there. See? That's my house. Anyways, all manifested. Yeah, you're darn right. I know how to do it. I know the secret. Other people say they know the secret. Other people say they know how to do it. But then they'll just tell you vague fucking bullshit statements like, that's how you manifest. This is how you manifest. Fuck off with that shit. You want to know how it really works? You really want to know straight up how it works? Because I'll just tell you. I don't care. I'll fucking tell you how it actually works. See, most people think the big secret is subconscious mind. Whatever you get in your subconscious mind manifests. And while that is true, that's not exactly how I understand it. Your subconscious mind, the whole putting it into your subconscious mind, is basically as far as I go when I try to teach is probably the wrong word, but help people understand this concept and help people take control of their life. I came on YouTube. First I came on Spreaker doing a podcast that also goes on YouTube to say I wanted to be another voice to tell people that this stuff works. It wasn't until I hit the curriculum that I do. But the one person who explained it for me a long time ago, I think it's the second video he ever put out on YouTube that he says it in. It was Birch that told me this. And it wasn't until a few days ago that I re-listened to it, and I was like, man, that's it. That's how this shit works. And if you understand the concept, then you can basically make up your own magic, how to do it, how to do any magic, really. If you understand this concept, then you can make up any way, shape, or form how to do whatever you need to do to make it. See, people with law of attraction shit focus on something so much. They want something, and they attract it to them. Well, how does that work? How does just thinking about a Ferrari make it come to you or something like that? You know what I mean? And for most people it doesn't work, but for some people it has worked. And it's because there's a specific rule to this shit. It has to do with the astral and the mental plane. One of those planes, I think it's the astral plane, though, technically. So, and I don't even want to call it that because I don't know if that would be its technical term, but there's a plane out there that everything on our physical plane has its counterpart on the astral plane. Meaning, for me to have my house and my car, I have its counterpart on that astral plane, right? All that shit is there. And then it's over here. They have to be both there. So if there's something that isn't on the astral plane, this is why dream magic works probably better than any magic. If you can make something happen in your dream, it'll funnel it down into this realm. So whatever's in the astral realm manifests here in this realm. So when you're, I'll talk about sigil magic, since that's the video from Birch that I saw. It was a rant on sigil magic. I'll play it for you. I'll play the part for you, not the whole thing, but I'll play the part for you where he says it. And hopefully it'll help light bulb a lot of people like a light bulb me. So I'm not going to pretend like this is my knowledge, like I figured it out myself. I'm not that kind of person. I don't ever take other people's knowledge and pretend it's mine. I don't think that's right. I think that's absolutely wrong. I think people that do that are fucking frauds and fakes. But anyways, point is, Birch explained this and I was like, wow, that's amazing. That guy fucking never ceased to amaze me. Now, this is one of his oldest videos, second oldest video, I think. I think he's got like 4 videos before this, maybe, or 3. That's him and his wife walking around grabbing different plants that are locally found in California very easily, and things you can do with those plants. So check his shit out. He's got a lot of great shit on his channel. But so the astral plane has every counterpart, has all the seconds, the doubles that we have here on this plane. Okay. So if on the astral plane right now I don't have my wife, well then I'm about to lose my life here on this plane, right? If my wife on the astral plane is with another man, then I'm going to lose her on this plane. That's one way of how to understand it, let's just say. So if on that astral plane I don't have the house that I have right now, as time progresses, maybe something happens anyways, so then I lose this house on this plane. Likewise, if on the astral plane I have 2 vehicles, well then I'm about to get another vehicle. Nature here on this plane abhors a vacuum, or some kind of a vacuum normally sucks things out. But anyways, so whatever is in that place, right? So right now I have a car on the astral plane, but I don't have it here on this physical plane. So there's something in this plane that's missing. So nature has to compensate and create whatever is on the astral plane, has to create it here. This is how we use magic. This is how we manipulate things to get stuff to us. Therefore, when you're focusing on a sigil to give you that second card, the more energy you put into that, the more, because if you put it in your subconscious mind, that means it goes into that collective unconscious. That means it goes to the astral plane, let's say. This is how I understand it. It could be inaccurate, but let's just leave it at that. So the more energy you're able to put into the thing that you want, okay, you have this physical representation of it, a sigil, let's say, that says, I am grateful that I have this new car. Present tense and all that. So you have the physical representation of it, that sigil, so you focus on that. You put so much energy into it, you get it into your subconscious mind, and you're putting so much energy into it that it is now created on the mental astral plane. You now created it. You got it into your subconscious mind that this is reality. It is in your reality, right? Over there. Therefore, the physical plane, Mother Nature, Gaia, whoever controls this bitch, realizes they have communication, kind of like our subconscious mind. This astral and this physical plane have a communication. It's kind of like conscious versus subconscious mind on a grander scheme of things. Well, there's kind of communication there, like, oh, there's something here for Mr. LeBlanc that he doesn't have over there in your physical plane. Oh, no problem, let's create it. And it takes the path of least resistance for you to acquire this of which you just created on the astral plane. And that's how this shit works. That is the complicated yet simple version of how and why magic works, is how and why we can create what we want. Because if we can use enough energy, if we can conjure up enough energy to create what we want on the astral plane by using our mind and our emotions and our will, well, therefore it gets created on the astral plane, and therefore whatever you want to call it that controls this realm, Saturn, God, subconscious mind, the deities, the divine, whatever, Mother Nature, Gaia, whenever they realize that it's not the same thing on both those planes, that's why I say opposites attract. Well, I have the opposite. I have nothing on this plane, yet I have something on that plane. Well, those opposites attract, boom, I attracted my new shit. No, that's not really how it works. But there's something else important I had to add to that. Oh yeah, so that sigil, while you have that sigil of you having the new car, technically on the astral plane you would technically have it, because that sigil is stating that you have the new car, right? You need to burn that thing. You need to bury it in the ground. You need to let water destroy it. You need to let the air, put it in water and then light it so it only smokes and doesn't catch fire using like air and water, let's say, or use fire and earth. You fucking turn it into fire, which turns it into ash, which is still the earthly realm. You need to get rid of that sigil, because now you got it in the astral plane that this thing exists in your reality. Yet, in your reality, in real time, right now, it's gone. You don't have it. So nature needs to create it for you. This is why you burn sigils. This is why you destroy things. This is why we're burning things on an altar, putting things in water, we're burying things. Anything you can't get rid of with fire, you burn. You burn, you burn, you burn. Or sorry, everything you can't get rid of fire, you burn. Fuck, I'm stupid. Everything you can't burn, you bury. Okay? Fire and earth, they go together. Water and air also go together. And when you add fire, well, But anyways, point is, burn all your shit. If you can't burn it, you bury it. But the point I'm trying to get at is that's how magic works. If you put enough energy into that sigil, because right now you have this sigil, and arguably just having that sigil might be telling the astral plane that you have this thing, depending on how you are. But just by having that sigil, it might actually tell the astral plane, okay, Corey wants this, but maybe on the astral plane you only have the sigil. I don't know. Point is, you need to put energy into the sigil. Sorry about that. My girls were calling me. So you need to stare at it. You need to focus on it. You need to give it energy, mental, astral energy. Okay. Once you create it on the astral plane, once you can visualize yourself having this thing, it becomes so real, and it's in your subconscious. Subconscious doesn't know between real and fake, right? This is why you can watch TV of people dying of cancer, and it's a show, but yet you might still get cancer down the line because you're putting it in your mind that cancer is real. There's no difference between real and fake, and you're gonna keep watching those TV shows, keep making yourself sick. So go for it, dumbass. Whatever, do what you want. But anyways, you put all that energy to get it into the astral plane. Once it's there, and you get rid of the physical representation you have of that item, you burn that fucking sigil up. Boom. That's why we put things on candles. And then once the candle is gone, the writing is also gone that I wrote on the candle or the sigil, and then it has to come to you in the physical plane. Because holy fuck, we have a mismatch. He's got this on the physical, but he doesn't. He's got this on the astral plane, but he doesn't have this in the physical plane. Fuck, we gotta fill that fucking need, fill that void. This is why when you try to rid yourself of an addiction that you have, if you don't replace it with something new, you can't get rid of that addiction, because you just stop doing the drug and you're good for a while, but all of a sudden nature has to fill that void with what was already there, because on the astral plane you still have that addiction. You didn't remove it or replace it properly, so you have to replace it with a new habit. You got to put enough energy into the astral plane that in the astral plane you are living a life without addiction, and then that will filter down into this reality. That's the complicated but simple way of explaining how magic works. And I need to thank Birch for letting me understand that. And it's such an easy way to understand, but it makes total sense to me anyways. I mean, it's because I've been doing magic for 4 years now, but you know, it just is what it is. I got a lot more to talk about, but I think I'm just going to end it there, because nice, simple, fast, fucking quick video just to say, hey, here's how magic works. Put enough energy into something, you create it on the astral plane. And if it's in your reality on the astral plane, or whatever you used on this physical plane to get into that plane, when you delete that, when you burn that, when you light it up, when you just rid your physical reality of your representation of the thing that you want, then nature will put in that place what you want, as long as you don't do any of the other things I teach, but it can be that fucking simple. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video on how magic works and what it is and all that other shit, and yeah, have a great fucking day. Sorry, I was supposed to be done, but I guess I'm not quite done. I just needed to go into the addiction thing a little further, because as I was walking to my house listening to what I said, it made sense on one. Anyways, it didn't really make sense, so let's just go with that. But so you're trying to get rid of addiction, right? On the astral plane, you still have this addiction. Here, you're trying to rid yourself of that addiction. Now, you didn't create a new habit to replace that addiction with, so therefore you still have that addiction on the astral plane. But if you put energy into a new habit and you're trying to replace that addiction with this new habit, then you're putting that new habit in the astral plane in the place of that addiction. Because what happens is when you go to detox, you're without doing the drug for a while, that's great. You're a couple months without the drug, maybe you're really strong-willed, but on the astral plane, you still have that addiction because you never replaced it with a new habit. Well, then you have a mismatch again, and astral tells the physical, hey, mismatch, he's got the drug addiction up here, he doesn't have it down there in the physical. Okay, we gotta replace it, and path of least resistance, you run into the drug dealer that you got rid of his number and all that, and then boom, you start doing the dope again. That's how this shit works. So that's the reverse of, you're trying to manifest something, you're trying to bring something to you, you gotta create it in the astral. You're trying to rid yourself of something, of an addiction, you have to replace it with a new habit on the astral plane, and then it'll manifest also down here. So anyways, so I just wanted to go over that again, because what I said wasn't the greatest, it wasn't well put or anything, so I just wanted to re-elaborate. But anyways, yeah, have a great fucking day.
Phil here. Oh, another cat. That's Inanna over there. Another one of our cats. I got cats everywhere. I wanted to add a little bit to the sigil magic, because not enough can ever be said about how handy it is. But in addition to the reassembling letters on top of each other to make symbols, studying some symbolism is really important too. Triangles, squares, even like dollar signs, circles, spirals, even just the basics of symbolism can be incorporated into this. An inverted triangle around a sigil, a triangle pointing down for money, triangle pointing up for spiritual things. Those are just the starts of what you can do and make a really, 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 really cool symbol. I talked about these two types, but this can also be you can put it on a candle, you can put it in addition to other symbols, but the basic sigil magic that I was just describing, I breezed over really fast. The idea is that this becomes the focal point of your ritual, and you concentrate all of your energy, or if you go into a trance state, focus on it, and go into complete psychotic gnosis, focusing on things. When you've reached your peak, sex magic, fucking great for sex magic. Just look at it right before you orgasm. Stop yourself from orgasming many, many times while focusing on it. The thing will be like beaming with light. Once you've done that, in a ritual space, in a consecrated circle, remember I said that part, in the circle, we've done this symbol. The peak point of that ritual, we light it on fire. We burn it. We remove that symbol from physical existence, and that's how the saying goes. Nature abhors a vacuum. You've spent enough energy on that its counterpart exists on the astral plane. The astral plane has everything that exists on the astral plane has to have a physical counterpart down here. If it suddenly doesn't,
Nature moves to compensate, and hopefully moves to compensate with your will. I hope that makes sense. Very neat, very important. And I think I'm done teaching witchcraft for a little while. I'll play a video game or something. Blessed be. All right, hi Tubies. Sorry it's been a while since I've done another video, but now I got some subscribers, so I figured I better do something. I haven't had a whole lot of computer time with this cool computer that has a webcam. My computer sucks in comparison. Freak Phil here with my take on the Wiccan Read. Now, first thing about me, I don't tend to waste time saying anything that anybody else has said. If somebody else has said it, I don't bother repeating it. If somebody has my take on things already, I don't see why I should just preach to the choir. The only reason I have my rant about the Wiccan Read is because I find that it's not something that's said anywhere else. Fact. The Wiccan Read was adopted as a policy in the 1974 Minneapolis Witch Meet, where the American Council of Witches decided to adopt it as part of this new religion for witchcraft that became Wicca. Wicca was a PR campaign, quite frankly, a way to give the word witch a different name that didn't evoke such negativity. You know, the Wizard of Oz, Hansel and Gretel, all this shit came up in people's mind when they said the word witch. So instead they came up with the word Wicca, which at least put a question mark in the average person's mind. It's like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't know whether I should hate that yet or not. Well, in addition to Wicca, also the adopting of things like the Wiccan Read were seen as a good idea. Anything to keep people from being scared of witches. That was the bottom line. Because the fear that comes up with the fear of witches, you know, I mean, witches allegedly can do anything. So if you're afraid of somebody that can do anything, and nothing's impossible, well, you can become quite paranoid. So they tried to come up with ways that people wouldn't be as paranoid, and they came up with these rules. And the Wiccan Read was invented and adopted and maybe adapted from the Hippocratic Oath or something like that. The Wiccan Read states very clearly, any harm none, do what thou wilt. There's a long version, but nobody agreed to the long version. The 1974 Witch Meet was the one that people agreed to, at least. But the long version is some invention that somebody else came up with that nobody really agreed to. You know, 8 words the Wiccan Read fulfill, harm ye none, do what you will, blobbity, 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 blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Now, I'm not really going to tell you what I follow, but I have a lot of thoughts on these things. First of all, I'm Strega, and I was a witch before there was a Wicca, so I was not in Minneapolis, probably wouldn't go there, so I never agreed to that. The Wiccan Read is a marvelous idea, kind of, if you want to reach spiritual fulfillment under a Band-Aid. It's a rule to keep you in line, to make you do the right thing. Now, if you only do the right thing because there's a rule and you're going to be punished for it, then you're not a spiritually evolved being and you've done nothing. It's like the 10 Commandments or something. These rules to keep people in line, and if you don't stay in line, God's going to punish you. Well, as a witch, I have to see past that, and as an anarchist, I have to see way past that. As an anarchist, I know that the word anarchy means self-government. To the ignorant, it means no government, but that is the ignorant. It's anybody that doesn't need a cop to tell them what to do. Now, I don't want to harm anyone because it's not a good thing to harm people, and I just don't want to go around hurting people because that's just not right. Not because I'm afraid of getting zapped by the Wiccan Read. I don't find that the Wiccan Read is valid. In practice, I see plenty of people doing evil. I run into plenty of witches. I've been a professional witch for about 15 years, working in witchcraft stores, and I own my own witch store, and I meet all kinds. And I got to say, there's plenty of people out there doing evil that get away with it. There's plenty of people out there doing bad things They get away with it. So much for your fucking rules. That's the problem. We need to evolve because we're better than that. We need to not hurt each other because it's just not right. It's just not what we want to do. It's not what our spirit's calling us to. So whether or not the Wiccan Reed is right or whether it's wrong, I think it's weak. I think it's weak to just keep people in line by scaring them, by forcing them, by threat, by fear. I'm a witch. I will have no part of it. I'm sure I have much more to say about that, but I don't really know how long I can make a video for. I think it's got to be under 10 minutes or something like that. So maybe more later. Bye, tubies. Maybe meet again. Go away. Oh my goodness. Hello, tubies. Let me try and finish my rant before the phone rings again. The Wiccan Reed. That's where I was. I got to go 2 parts on this one because it's large. It's large. Now, I'm a priest and a witch, so it is not my job to tell people what to believe. It is my job to help people do better with their beliefs. It's not my job to put somebody on a path, more to help them walk their path better. It doesn't matter what that path is. It doesn't matter, I work with Catholics, Christians, and Muslims, and Jews, and witches, and it just doesn't matter. So, having said what I just said in the first part of the rant, I don't want to fuck with your beliefs. If you do believe in the Wiccan Reed, I want to maybe help you be better at it. Now, let's look at this clearly. Andy, harm none. Do what thou wilt. None is our key word, and it's huge. Now, every Wiccan belief system I know of, every pagan system, every witch's system, views animals, bugs, dirt, rocks, trees, weeds, and microbes as equals. And that would be microscopic particles, everything. Everything is equal. And we like to throw things around like as above, so below. That's huge. You can go forever on as above, so below, because we can be the above and the molecules can be the below. They are equal with us and probably have a similar life if we, can ever figure it out. They're a microcosm of our macrocosm, and we're a microcosm of the larger macrocosm, and on you go. So our beliefs are large and all-encompassing. So, none is huge. To harm none means if you harmed a bug, failed. Now, I may have given this part of the rant before because, well, this part's pretty consistent. Did you drive a car today? You failed the Wiccan Reed. Watch this. Did you smoke? You failed. I failed. I just failed the Wiccan Reed. I'm harming myself right now. I know I'm doing it, and I should try harder not to. That's the Wiccan Reed. To constantly try harder not to. If you want to adopt that belief system, you better look at that belief system in its wholeness. It does not mean don't hurt anybody and everything will be okay. If you're going to believe something so large, a spiritual belief system, a gateway to enlightenment, where if you could actually ever become truly harmless, you might be like the Buddha or something. Jesus or somebody, man. You could be like a radio, man, and send off it to the moon or something. You'd be perfect. We're not perfect. A lot of our systems are designed to help us towards perfect. The ways to perfection, as the old craft was called. But we're not perfect, and it's a long way. And if you're going to adopt that belief system, you should work at it. You should work at it. What the Wiccan Reed should be, then, is to constantly reassess your capacity to harm. What do you harm? How, are there things that you're harming that you're not even thinking about? You step on an ant. Did you think about that? Well, you should think about it. If you didn't think about it yesterday, you should think about it tomorrow. You should be constantly evolving in your ability to not harm. And when you truly reach harmlessness squared, you'll be perfect. But until you stop harming yourself, stop harming the environment, stop harming microscopic microbes, bugs, you have not passed the Wiccan Rite. Now, it's not really supposed to be a pass-fail kind of thing. It's supposed to be a spiritual belief system that leads to enlightenment. As such, it should be hard to reach. It should be slightly out of reach all of the time. And when you get closer to it, it should move further away, because if it's too easy, who fucking needs it? We're witches, not New Agers. We cannot buy our enlightenment in a box, unwrap the plastic, and have it. It doesn't work. There's no quick road. Okay? It's craft, it's path, it's ways. Twisted path. You should work on it. And now, let me fuck you up one more time. Let's say you've adopted the harm none philosophy and you want to be like Gandhi and everything else. Somebody walks in a room with an Uzi. Says, I'm going to kill all you witches. You got a bunch of witches there. I'm going to kill all you. It doesn't even have to be witches. You're going to kill all these people. And somehow, you're off to the side where you can't be seen. And you've got a gun. And you may not believe in guns, but you happen to have one right there. And this person is going to kill all of those people. And you've got the ability to stop that person with one shot to the back of the head. If you were not to take that shot, you failed the Wiccan Rite too. Harm by omission. You can harm by not doing something. You cannot just sit on your hands and have the Wiccan Rite come to you. It's an active process. So if you want to follow that, if that's going to be your philosophy, please make it big. Make it large, or don't waste your fucking time with it. Very neat. Very hard. Very neat again. Hey, tubies. Freak Phil here. Pissing off the status quo for 44 years now. I'm sure this will be right along those lines. What about Satan? The devil. Lucifer. Now, the status quo, the pagan PR people, whatnot, for years have established, something very clearly that we are all supposed to say when asked this question. We, as witches, do not believe in Satan. True. True. That has been true for quite some time. Satan is the all-evil entity, opponent of Jehovah, Hasatan, the adversary of God, is not something that exists in our belief system, but something that does exist in our belief system. Thought forms, also called servitors. And then one up from that, don't be texting me. Texting me while I'm on a fucking YouTube, dude. Sorry about that. Thought forms. And then egregores. You know what those are, kids? I should have visual displays. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of pretty much ranting. The egregore. E-G-R-E-G. Gregor. Try. You know what? If you Google it, Google's great with helping you spell it right. But did you mean? And it'll tell you. Egregores. Now do a little work. Do a little looking. If you don't know what an egregore is, I want you to look for squat. The god squat. Or I'm sorry, goddess squat. And then I want you to look at scram, score, Sarge. There are several American deity forms that exist now that had previously been what a witch would call an egregore, a thought form built to serve more than one person, a thought form built to serve the public, the populace, anybody that calls on it, an artificial deity, if you will. Thought forms have been known to break from their programming, gather energy from their worshippers, and do whatever the fuck they wanted to do if you didn't put a limitation on them. And the god squat. Excellent, excellent example. I believe it's Isaac Bonowitz that tells the story in Real Magic of, I think it's his coven that invented the great god squat in Berkeley back in the 80s as a parking deity. to be launched to the world to see if it could become a god in its own right. Now, this squat has launched to the world, has transgendered itself, and is now a large, robust woman who likes limericks and dirty jokes. And what you do is you drive around looking for a parking spot, saying dirty jokes and limericks to squat. And squat's amazingly powerful, more powerful than a lot of your deity forms that are out there in the world. And on the East Coast, they actually have a chant and a hand thing. It's be hard to do when you're driving, but it's squat, squat, find me a spot. Squat, squat, find me a spot. It's Rochambeau. You do Rochambeau, but I don't know how you do that while you're driving. But I do know the limericks and the dirty jokes work great for squat. Now, squat was created, be launched into the world, draw energy from everybody that called upon squat to get larger and bigger and grow, and maybe break out of the artificial deity form and become a god. Squat did more than that. Squat became a goddess. Squat did not stay in the box because the box was too loose. But look up Squat. Fascinating story. Now, I ain't talking about Squat today. I ain't here to talk about it. Okay, I talked about Squat, but I'm not here to talk about Squat. We're here to talk about Satan. Now, in that same concept, if we think of Satan as an egregore, if we think of Satan as an artificial concept created by humankind as a reservoir for all their guilt, for all their bad deeds, all the people that ever said the devil made me do it, blamed something bad on Satan, feared Satan, read about Satan, gave him energy, all the heavy metal songs about Satan, make that exist as an egregore at the very least, but large. If you think of all the world's guilt, all the people that assign everything bad that they do over to this thing has to exist now. It has to exist by all the other laws that we use in the craft for using egregores, thought forms, plenty of god forms or lesser, even what are called lesser deities exist very much on this. They're invented, pulled out of the greater whole because the people needed a little piece of God, and they gave it a name, and they gave it a body, and they gave it an image, and those things grow. Those things grow, and they may just grow beyond us. So, for witches to say that we don't believe in Satan, or Satan doesn't exist, it doesn't work for me anymore. Knowing what I know, that cannot be. And I know it's bad PR, but witches would just like there not to be a Satan so they don't get confused with Satanists anymore. The most common line we've heard for like 20 years, only recently has anybody spoken against it, is a witch will say, when talking to the media, oh, we don't believe it, or we're not Satanists. Yeah, we're not Satanists. We don't eat babies. Or words to that effect. Kind of saying that Satanists eat babies. Or saying that witches say that Satanists eat babies. That in order for